for the time being. I think he will be just up the road enough to not play a factor and not to give any dirty air to the two teammates who continue to go back and forth as we wind now to 3 laps to go, Joey, to round out this month of November.
Evan's about 3 seconds up the road there. Hugo and Blocker are only about 4/10 a lap faster than Evan every lap around. So you do the math, that means they're probably not going to catch him. There might be a little bit of dirty air come that last lap, but other than that, it's going to be 1v1 v1, Blocker v Olsen v Demerit. Again, you see Demerit in turn 1 trying to go a little bit wide, trying to set something up down the back straight here. Unfortunately, he's just running into that dirty air wall. He's running into the dirty bubble. He's stuck about 3/10 behind both of these guys. But as they continue to get even more aggressive, as they continue to go side by side even more throughout the lap, Demerit's just waiting for the door to open.
We are past the point of no return. The next flag will end the race. And at this point, with 5 miles to go, is it between the two at the front of the field? This event that Tanner Watkins started back in 2019 is back in your lives. Tanner is watching somewhere on his honeymoon. We congratulate him on his marriage just last weekend. But 2 trips around IMS left with the victory and the glory on the line, Lewis.
Yeah, Hugo Olsen nearly into the barrier then, coming on the exit of 2. They are no longer teammates, ladies and gentlemen. They are battling between each other. Olsen takes over the race lead into 3. Demerit sat there waiting. Is his opportunity now? White flag's about to be waved. Who is going to be on top?
2.5 miles to go. 700 plus days later, Hugo Olsen is in contention once more, but it comes down to the next 4 corners. His teammate Adam Blocker will look to the inside, but the defending champion has it covered for now, Joey.
I wonder if that was a little bit too early of a move from Blocker. He's going to fall off the back here off of 2. He almost gets into the wall and has to completely check up. I don't think he's going to have enough time to bring this gap down into turn 3. I think going for that move into 1 was too early, and that might have just won Hugo Olsen this race.
Brandon Traynor was dropped behind Robert Malechka as well. 1 more corner to be perfect for Hugo Olsen. What a story it has been. He broke onto the scene, winning this event in 2020, and 2 years later, Hugo Olsen conquers the Indianapolis Motor Speedway once more to crown himself the open wheels 500-mile champion in 2022, and to put forward his candidacy for the best that iRacing IndyCar has to offer, Lewis.
Stealing the King of the Bricks. I think he'll be around that area because Brandon Traynor drops down to 6th spot, wasn't able to challenge for the victory. Olsen doing it again. I mean, he's showing that he is the man for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Absolutely sensational.
For 13 years, iRacing has given a platform for drivers around the world to experience the thrill of IndyCar. Today, that comes to an end, and we go for one final ride here on the RaceSpot US 500 on the New Year's Eve for 2022. Hello, everyone, and welcome along to what is a somber but exciting day in a few different ways. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside by the one and only Joey Tebben. We have 2 producers behind the scene working through 2 splits of competition, Hugo Luis and Joshua Lee, producing and covering all the action. Joey, it's been I think, interesting week and a half since the news broke that the Dallara IR18 and all the Indy cars available on iRacing would no longer be allowed to be the center stage for us, at least here at RaceSpotTV. But today, over 80 drivers gather to say goodbye to this Dallara IR18.
Indeed, it's a bittersweet day. It's been a bittersweet past couple of days, honestly, as everybody kind of panicked and said, we didn't expect to only have 2 more weeks to enjoy this car and race it at all the places we love so much. So everybody's come together in this community, in every community on iRacing, to get as much out of this car as we can, because we don't know if we're going to have it again in the near future, in 2023. It might just be the last time we get to race this car at Michigan, at Indianapolis, at any place like this on a broadcast. And we're gonna go out in style, at least for now.
I think you said it right, though. It's been something that the entirety of the iRacing community, not just our little pocket in IndyCar, has been gathering to try and put together some send-offs. You just came from the FTF Rectangle 800, I think is the way that we're calling that one, Joey. A fun race, and of course, put together by the team at Justin Melillo and FTF.
Yeah, I think you said 800. I'm kind of glad it wasn't 800 miles, but yes. I could have been there for 300 more miles, I think. But great event last night for the FTF Rectangle 500. Connor Harrington came out on top, and all of that, I guess, kind of fitting. Probably the most active IndyCar community member in that race. He beat them all. He came out on top after an incredible duel with Ethan Corder and with Nick DeGroot. Connor Harrington's back in the field tonight, so he could go 2 for 2 here. He's got a great way to finish off 2023 on his plate.
I think, confusing another race that's happening after our one with the FTF race. Let's take a quick look, though, at our entry list, because like I said, 2 splits of competition. The main split filled with many familiar faces to those that have watched iRacing Indy 500, Open Wheels 500 races as well. A lineup of just over 40 cars, excuse me. You look through the list of teams as well. Team Talent and the private label Team Hype obviously represented and led, of course, by Phil Kraus. Powerslide Motorsports bring Adam Blocker and company to the party with, of course, Apex Racing Team and that collaboration with Team i5G leading to many, many entries, along with the Indy Alliance Racing program and the All-American iRaces. I mean, I look at this, Joey, and I look at basically all the names that we saw in the Open Wheels 500 just a handful of weeks ago.
Everybody from the Open Wheels 500 and more. 42 cars here. It's not just a 33-car field like it normally is. 42 drivers, and there's even more in that second split. You think this entry list is stacked? Well, it's so stacked that some people couldn't make it. Some of the biggest names, some of the most active people in the IndyCar community, they're in the second split. They're still racing, and we'll see some of them as well.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that second split, and we will watch the second split through the course of the day as well. We're going to start, of course, with the second split start, then jump on over to the main split as they get underway for 156 laps. Again, about 40 drivers provisionally entered, but of course New Year's Eve means some slight last-minute change of plans for some. Lionheart staples in this field as well, and of course that's one of the biggest sad things that we've had, biggest sad moments that we've been thinking about moving forward into 2023 with the Lionheart Racing Series very much disrupted in their plans, and of course their plans to return to us at a team at RaceSpotTV. Joey, I mean, let's also talk about the fact that in so many ways, iRacing introduced fans to the IndyCar, introduced fans to the NTT IndyCar Series as well. I'm one of those people, and I'm also someone that wouldn't be sitting here in the booth if it was not for this Dallara IR18, and I've raced with many of these drivers in both of the splits of competition, and I do like that we've gotten together to work to a slightly, I don't want to say communal letter, because I feel like I maybe had a little bit too much of a hand in writing that one, but we are a divisive community at the best of times, and we have very much banded together.
Everybody has banded together because they know that this is the thing that brought the community together. It's not easy to build an online community. It's especially not easy to build an online community around a virtual race car, but this has done exactly that. And it's not just the virtual iRacing series, it is in real life. Every single time the month of May rolls around, every single time an IndyCar race comes to somebody's neighborhood, you look in the IndyCar community and suddenly there's 4 people meeting up in the parking lot because they wouldn't know each other without meeting each other on iRacing in this car. Communities form online, and communities have formed very, very strongly through this community.
Very much so. Qualifying will get underway. RaceSpot US 500 may be harking back to what the split was just a couple of decades ago, but we're not going for 500 miles. 500 kilometers, so about 156 laps. But with toasty track conditions, that's definitely something that we're going to be talking about here today. You can already see the track temperature is up to about 44 degrees Celsius for those of you that need the other sort of units. I'll quickly convert that over to you. About 111 Fahrenheit. But we may get as warm as 140 Fahrenheit here, Joey, which means that tires is going to be a major talking point.
Yeah, that's the main thing I've heard everybody talking about coming into this race. They were looking at the way the weather was scheduled to be. Those are some pretty big temperatures. 111 degrees Fahrenheit right now, as high as 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Michigan does tend to shred the tires a little bit because you are just constantly at high speeds. You're constantly scrubbing those tires. And when it's very, very hot, you're going to have to do even more tire management than usual.
So the first times are beginning to come in, but we're seeing a few interesting strategies in terms of qualifying so far. Many electing to go slow on the opening laps. The benchmark set by Adam Blocker with a 32.397. There's a power slide 1, 2, and 3 provisionally. We'll see how long that lasts. Here is one, I think, of the most popular drivers in the field here today. Casey Kerwin, the winner of the 2022 iRacing Fixed Indy 500, joins us for our swan song here, Joey.
It's always good to see Casey Kerwin in the field in anything on iRacing, because this guy can pilot whatever he ends up in. Right now, he's not looking especially fast, but I think this is deliberate. He's slow rolling lap 1, which isn't something we normally see. Now he's going to pick up the pace here on lap number 2. He's going to go up on the high line. This is 4-lap qualifying, so you're probably not going to do all 4 laps in succession. You're not going to complete all 4 laps necessarily. You're going to use some of them as warm-up laps, and we're already seeing Casey Kerwin do something a little bit funky to try and get some extra speed out.
Here's Mitch Welker building to the line. Not much of a separation in terms of the lap time so far, with about 0.2 of a second splitting the top 15 or so. As Split 1 continues their qualifying, Split 2 is already done and dusted, and they're getting ready to go racing. Matt Wagner will start on pole position in that second split with Paolo Vinicius, Luke Daniels, and Michael Hurley, the rest of the top 4. Jacob Reed, someone we saw in Friday Night Primetime not just 24 hours ago, will be in 5th, with Dave Stedman, Brandon Hawking, usually a touring car ace, in 7th, Chuck Kleinhagen, Mark Murphy, and JW Miller, the top 10 in that one. Here's Chad Simpson, though, one of 2 satellite racing entries in our field here today, as he works out of the final corner in qualifying with 90 seconds still left to go. Most of the times on the board. His teammate Adam Crane jumps up to 3rd, but for Chad Simpson, it's not going to be up into the top 5. It's only 7th for now.
Casey Kerwin's little slow roll maneuver didn't really work out for him there on the first lap. Only a 32.5. You see him down in P16. You'll see if he can build up any speed on another lap. Andrew Marquez, lower than he'd probably want to be, down there in 21st, dead in the middle of the field in this 42-car field. He's going for 2 laps in succession here. I didn't think anybody would necessarily want to do that because the speed's going to fall off. Andrew Marquez finds literally nothing on lap number 2, exactly the same as the last one.
Margins getting tighter and tighter now, though. Less than 1/10 of a second splitting the top 10. Here's Seb Alexander in the Indy Alliance Racing program, breaking out the face reveal for today, as well as the way that he put it when we were chatting about a day ago. 40 seconds left in qualifying. Final opportunities to get some lap times onto the board. Alexander will cut down to the apron and find 1/10 of a second. He'll slide his way forward into the 6th position, jumping in front of Jeff Drake. First time we've seen that Team Talent number 4 car since the iRacing Indianapolis 500. In fact, Alexander doesn't improve. Here comes Drake with no improvement in lap time either, though, Joey.
Yeah, it seems like it is a 1-lap session. You really can't get any more speed after the second lap. You're given 4 laps here, but I think the way to do it for most of these guys is probably go out for 1 run, then go out for a 2nd run. You're not going to do all 4 laps in succession. Robert Malechka's kind of in a race against the clock here. Is he actually going to make it to the line before the clock runs out? Yes, he is. And he puts it on pole.
Oh, at the very dying depths, Robert Malechka will grab the pole position for the RaceSpot US 500. But before we talk about split number 1, it's time to go and look at split number 2 as they get ready to roll. You can see already building off on their pace lap. We've got a solid field of 33 cars. Seems quite fitting, Joey.
It does seem very, very fitting. On pole, not actually sure who's on pole here in second split, but a whole host of names. We circled through them for a minute. A lot of Lionheart guys. Chris Scala, so active in the broadcasting community, and Nate Stewart, and also Brandon Hawken, who finished 3rd in the FTF Rectangle 500 last night. Nobody can get enough of this IndyCar.
It is, I think, the most attention that this car has had in quite a while, and of course, maybe for a while, but for I think a lot of these drivers, they are not too sad to be missing out on the main broadcast, and that's why I'm so delighted with the turnout that we have for this event, Joey. These are not just drivers looking to get their time on TV, they are looking to say goodbye with our community.
And this could very well be their last chance to do that, so they're all packing up here, looking at the back of the field. Everybody is slowly making their way into the order here. It may be second split, but it is just as special as the top split. We're going to give these guys as much attention as we can, and they're going to put on just as good of a race as the guys in top split. They want this just as bad.
Remember, Matt Wagner, Paolo Vinicius, Luke Daniels, Mike Hurley, Jacob Reed, Dave Steadman. That's the front 3 rows, but the reality is, in this sort of a race, getting to the end is priority number 1. We're ready to go for the first of 2 races here today from Michigan. The RaceSpot US 500 is underway. Nice tidy start through the field, a handful of 2 and 3 wide moments. Mike Hurley grabs the lead momentarily, but Matt Wagner back down to the inside as they rumble in towards turn number 3. Will grab back the points for the time being, but of course it's not about leading at the end of lap number 1. Joey, you need to lead at the end of lap 156.
Indeed you do. Mike Hurley, the home driver here up in the top 4, representing Michigan. Not representing Michigan with that livery. That's the dark brown Versteleka car. I should probably know how to say that. It's a Finnish military surplus company. They sell like canned bread and stuff. He's representing him pretty well to the outside. Coming into turn 2, not quite able to actually get to the outside of Luke Daniels for second.
And this fighting, of course, is just going to go on and on and on. Temperatures are only going to go up from here as well. We'll talk more about that once we dive into split number 1. As these drivers finish up lap 2 of 156, the drivers in split number 1 are getting ready to go for their RaceSpot US 500. Can already see the type of racing that we're looking at, but let's run you down through the starting grid because the drivers in main split are getting ready to go. And it was at the death that Robert Malechka grabbed the final potential pole position on RaceSpotTV in a Dallara IR18 with a 32.309, a quarter of a tenth of a second faster than his Powerslide Motorsports teammate in Adam Blocker. Christopher, it's great to see him back in an IndyCar after what seems like 12 full months. He'll be alongside with Adam Crane, Brian Carey, the Canadian, great in qualifying up in 5th, Rashad Craig, the first of the Indy Alliance racing drivers. Jeff Drake in red starts in 7th alongside Connor Harrington, winner in that FTF Rectangle 500. Alexis Newsom in 9th, along with Henry Bennett to complete the top 10. Chad Simpson and the king of the bricks, Brandon Traino, share row number 6. Nick Sudik will line up 13th alongside privateer entry AJ Musselman, Seb Alexander, and Mitch Welker 15th and 16th spots, with Casey Kerwin having some work to do from 17th. He'll be alongside Jesper Orman in the number 5 for Indy Alliance Racing. Matt Hollabo will line up inside of Chris Wilhite to bookend the top 20, while Jose Soria is looking to take the iRacing fix setup to victory lane from 21st. He'll be alongside Chad Frankenfield in the Little Eagle Racing number 15. Phil Kraus, 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series King, 23rd, with Jacob Oster alongside. Andrew Kinsella, Kevin Burrell, 25th and 26th, with David Porcelli and Andrew Marquez, row 14. Evan Adams and the Firehawk Man start in 29th position, with Frank Levick in 30th. 31st sees Shane Coogan, along with Doug South, with Joe Branch, Craig Forsyth, AJ Burton, and Brendan Lichtenberg through the top 36. Maybe a handful of the strong names trying to stay out of trouble. Tanner Watkins returns. He sold his rig, but he went back to use it today. He's 37th, along with Jason Brophy, and then Matt Pavelski. A couple of cars with no times on the board. Riley Thompson, David Graybill, and Josh Tucker round out the field of 42. Joey, it is a stacked field of 42 as well, and as we get ready to go, there's no expectations, I think, for who's going to win. We are just expecting chaos and carnage, because the last few times these drivers have headed out to Michigan, it's been 3 and 4 wide to the very end.
But the king, every time we've come to Michigan this year, has been Robert Malechka. He's been the Michigan man, so there's no favorites in this field. I do agree with that. It's probably, I could argue, the most stacked field in IndyCar broadcast history on iRacing, but the guy who's been the strongest at Michigan this year, Robert Malechka, was the strongest in qualifying in those dying seconds. He starts from the front. He's going to be pretty hard to beat.
I tell you what, let's see if we can disturb the pole position winner, Robert Malechka, who will serve as one of our 2 in-race reporters. Rob, pole position at the death, what was it about that lap?
I hope you got me. I have no idea. Didn't really do any laps today to get the key runs in, but kind of just put together, did what I did, and I think Lionheart in season 3, and it kind of just worked out for me.
Rob Malechka giving us a little bit of insight, and we will disturb him through the course of the race, as we will with Brandon Traino. And of course, don't forget, we'll have some onboard cameras as well through the field of 42. I mean, Joey, in terms of fuel windows as well, we're not expecting too much variance, but we should note you can go about 39 laps in clean air, but up to maybe 46, 47 in dirty air if you're saving.
As usual, the fuel strategy is the main talking point in long races like this. Malechka might be the leader, but he's going to be spending the most fuel for as long as he leads.
Here we go for 156 laps. The final ride in this Dallara IR18. The RaceSpot US 500 sends us to 2023 with Powerslide Motorsports picking up the throttle and getting us underway. Full of cars going up high, but as we wind out of turn 1 at the front, it's going to be swapping back and forth. Adam Blocker will take the lead into towards turn number 3, but 2 by 2, Noah's Ark through the field. They fly into the turn 3.
Looking all the way back, 42 cars. All 42 cars have survived lap 1. They're all going to cross the line. Looks like Robert Malechka did lead that lap at the line, but now suddenly his little switch fest with Adam Blocker, that's going to be broken up. Chris Stouffer wants to have a play in there too.
Stouffer does have that chrome on his car, which I'm glad to see, and he will take the point. Former Powerslide Motorsports driver, but now, of course, with Intense Racing, he'll try and link up with Joe Branch just a little bit further back. Don't forget as well that as part of this RaceSpot US 500, we have partnered with the Open Medicine Foundation, and you can donate directly on YouTube by using YouTube Giving. YouTube will cover 100% of the transaction fee as well, so please do help us to go out, not just with a bang on track, but by celebrating what a fantastic community that we have as well. At the front, though, Brandon Traynor has decided he's not going to wait too long. 11 positions gained already, and to the inside for a moment, because Connor Harrington wants to take it 3 wide as we fly through turn 3 on lap number 3. My word, if this is what we've got for 156 laps, Joey, these drivers are in for a white-knuckle ride.
I have a feeling this is what we're going to see. We're not going to necessarily see drivers just riding in line, saving fuel, not doing anything. This is the last chance you get to race this car. This is the last chance you get to have this spectacular racing for the moment. You've got to go for it. If the chance comes to send it 3 wide, you might as well take it. That's what Traino's been doing. That's what Harrington's been doing. Harrington's happy to lead laps. He's not happy to just ride in line and save fuel. We saw that last night at Indianapolis. He led 141 laps en route to victory. He's going to try and lead every lap he can here.
Robert Malechka, the one that dives all the way down low to take it 3 wide and regain the race lead. Not really seeing anyone fall back, at least just yet. And again, as we go 3 wide into turn number 1, it's because track temperatures are definitely a major talking point. We start this race off at around 48 degrees Celsius. That's about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's only going to get warmer from here. We've begun this race at about 12 p.m. on July the 3rd in 2023. Lots of analogies and analogs rather to when the split happened and Michigan was the home of a 500-mile race. Fortunately, though, no parallels, Joey, with lap number 1 shenanigans for our drivers.
It just goes to show the quality of the field here. We can run 3 wide for the lead of this race. We can run 3 wide, 20 rows deep. I don't know how that math checks out, but you get the idea. And they're not going to cause a pileup. We're not going to kill a bunch of people. These guys have so much experience in this style of racing. They know how much room to give each other, although Malechka almost just proved me wrong there.
They are going to squeeze. I think it's by no means going to be an easy ride, and Malechka has to now very much be careful about how tight he wants to run up to Brandon Traynor, how much he wants to squeeze Connor Harrington down low. That was Chris Stouffer that's decided to go up the track and ride around in 4th. He's got Alexis Newsom down low, and as the caution flies for the first time, one of the satellite racing machines, I think, collected with Jesper Orman, but it's 7 laps in, and we slow things down, Joey.
Some good progress there, but Jesper Orman, and I think that may have been Adam Crane. No, it's Jose Soria got involved, but oh my goodness, just a clip of the wall coming into the corner, trying to get out of the dirty air, and there is your pileup.
So I think Chad Simpson was the satellite racing car involved.
Doug South just killed the wall.
Yes, that was Doug South. I think Jeff Drake in that bright red machine, one of the other machines involved, but we'll get the update as soon as we cycle things through. There is Doug South with a right front wheel that does not want to be on his Dallara IR18. He'll try and get back down to pit lane. No fast repairs here today, Joey, so they don't have a free repair by any means. So if Doug South wants to fight back, he will likely have to do so from at least one lap down.
Yeah, I feel very bad for Doug South. He's woken up at about 5 a.m. in Australia to be here tonight. He's been supportive of the Open Medicine Foundation, and unfortunately, it's all come undone here. I don't think he's going to give up. I think he's going to come down and get that damage repaired, hopefully get that wheel pointing straight again, but it's a tough day already, and it's only 5 a.m.
Yeah, that is true. He has had to wake up quite early. Now, interestingly, Robert Malechka slightly hung out to dry as he decides to dive down to pit lane, assuming that fresh tires are worth the call. I saw Adam Blocker following him in as well, but the majority of the field electing to stay out at the front. Of course, further back, they have decided to dive on in and do what they can. Now, trying to work backwards from this point with a 156 lap race. We have about 145-ish laps to go. Fuel window could range anywhere from 39 to 47 laps, is what we mentioned earlier, Joey. Are some of these people thinking about the fuel mileage here?
They definitely are. I'm trying to do the math in my head myself. I don't have Justin Prince here with his smoking calculator to do the math for me, so I got to figure out how to do that. If you can go as long as humanly possible, 47, double that, you get 94. Add another 47 to that, you get 141. So you're not quite good to make it. Even if you can save all the fuel in the world, you still need a couple extra laps of caution to make it home on 2 more stops.
So while we get at least another lap of pacing for this main split, let's check back in with our second split of competition. Already, they've had a caution as well, but it's just as feisty at the very front of the field. Do remember, RaceSpot.tv/timing2. If you want to follow along with the second split and your favorite team and drivers, it's Mark Murphy in front of Matt Wagner, Michael Hurley, Dave Stedman, and Brandon Hawkin, the top 5 with Indy Cassie, Luke Daniels, Hugo Gallis, John Silver, and then Chuck Kleinhagen, the rest of the top 10. Of course, these drivers, like we said, already have seen one caution. That took out Trey Mitz, J.W. Miller, Robert DeLoach, Colton Easterday, and Julian Altena. When you wreck here at Michigan, Joey, it is a big wreck.
That's the case generally in the IndyCar. When you do wreck in an open wheel car going 200 miles per hour, you're generally going to have a little bit of trouble getting back in the race with no damage. But that is a shame for guys like Rob DeLoach, for Colton Easterday, names that we've just recently seen for the first time on RaceSpot TV with the PRL series. Colton Easterday in the NASCAR trucks, recently racing at Michigan. Rob DeLoach taking on GT cars. New names on RaceSpot TV. Not necessarily new names to the IndyCar, but it's fallen apart for them early.
Yeah, I think the one name that maybe from the PRL that we were looking forward to having after seeing his performance in the Open Wheels 500 was Hamilton Akabuezi, as I think the caution maybe has just come out again in split number 2. Never mind, that's us getting ready to go back over to the main split of competition as they wind down onto the back straightaway. But yeah, Hamilton Akabuezi was definitely one of those names that stood out to us back in the month of November, Joey.
I don't think he was technically the Rookie of the Year, because I think we had some weird asterisks with the Rookies of the Year. I think Brandon Trano ended up being the Rookie of the Year because somehow he counted as a rookie, but I'd say Hamilton Akabuezi did definitely shock and surprise us at the Open Wheels 500, and hopefully, again, that's not the last time we get to see him in this highest level of IndyCar competition on iRacing. Hopefully he gets more chances in 2023. We gotta wait and see, though.
So as we get ready to go back racing, 13 cars have elected not to pit. At the front of them, Brandon Trano, Connor Harrington, Christopher, Alexis Newsom, Adam Crane. They got Jacob Oster, Chad Frankenfield, David Porcelli, Matt Pavelski, and Frank Levick, the rest of the top 10. Brandon Trano's going to hold them for a while, but the green flag will fly, and Trano's not going to be able to break away and build a bit of an advantage into turn number 1. Of course, the speeds will rise and the gaps will close. And here's a look on board with Adam Crane, and not just a fellow commentator here now at RaceSpot TV, because of his relationship with the IndyCar Series, jumping in on very late notice to help us out with the Lionheart IndyCar Series, but a very talented driver that we've seen compete with the rest of his satellite racing team. As you see up the front of the field, Christopher squeezing his way forward, Jacob Oster powering around the outside, some power moves on the restart.
And power slide driver in the background, Robert Malechka, on the new tires. He's the first driver who came in under that caution. He's P13 right now, so look for that red and white entry a little bit further back behind Andrew Kinsella. to be the first driver really trying to rip it on the top, trying to make moves early, because he's got a lot of track position to make up after that move to pit.
We'll see how aggressive they are going to be, how much they're also already thinking about the fuel number, because I do think that's something that will creep into their minds, at least initially at this point in the race. Like we also mentioned, for some of those involved in the incident at the caution, Jose Soria, Jesper Orman, Seb Alexander, Doug South, Chad Simpson, and Jeff Drake. So 6 cars mixed up in that one, all seemingly retired from the race. We're looking rearwards now from the King of the Bricks, Brandon Traino, as he focuses in on the race in front of him. He's got Connor Harrington diving his way down low, and of course for Brandon Traino, he had already made some rumblings about what the plan for 2023 was. Not just going to be focusing on the IndyCar, but maybe looking to partner up with the rest of the Apex Racing team to make a bit of a crack at some special events, and I guess that's going to be a little bit easier in terms of splitting the focus for him moving forward. The first point of call, of course, the 24 Hours of Daytona, where VCO is partnering up with iRacing again for another year of the VCO Grand Slams, and we'll have a lot of fun, Joey, covering not just that race, but the story of the fact that the winners in the top split of competition get physical trophies as well. One of those special things that we now have for the iRacing special events.
Always thankful for VCO and for the iRacing special events. So you really do get to think of it more as a real life racing event in a way. You get a trophy, you get recognition. It's not just the victory, which is good enough in itself, but I am very excited for the 24 Hours of Daytona. I'm kind of excited to be in the 4 a.m. shift or something, probably bring us through the night with a virtual rooftop ray or something. It'll be a great event.
Maybe you'll get to be stuck with the graveyard shift with me, because that seems quite likely. I'm on another VCO event for most of the first 12 hours of the Daytona 24. Let's see if we can dial up our race leader, Brandon Traino. Brandon, do you have a copy?
Hello, Arjuna. How's it going?
Oh, it's going lovely. You look like you're enjoying yourself right now. Plus 11 so far and running up at the front.
Yeah, we're trying to put on a show. I don't know if you saw it, but that first 2 laps were pretty impressive.
Your charge through the front was pretty impressive. We've also seen a couple of nervy 3-wide moments. How tense is it for you guys, even though you trust those around you, when you get a little bit too close for comfort?
I think we're doing okay, pretty good so far. I mean, we're not quite, full-on chaos levels yet, but I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, that will come at the final lap. Don't you worry about that. What was it in your mind that led to you staying out when you saw Powerslide Motorsports diving on in?
I just want to be up front and give this Apex Racing team race car good TV time.
Yeah, especially because it's in red, which we know is the superior color, right?
Yes, absolutely. But don't tell Alex.
We won't tell Alex, so we'll leave you be for the time being, Brandon. Thanks for being one of our in-race reporters.
Anytime, Arjuna.
Brandon Traino. Not the first time that we've had some quality content out of the Apex Racing team. We were reminiscing in our iRacing IndyCar Discord earlier today, Joey, and I posted the clip when we were at the Nordschleife earlier this year, and just before the iRacing Indy 500, where Brandon Traino was getting pace notes around the Nordschleife from his teammate Christopher Demerit. If you've not watched it ever before, after this, I highly recommend you go and find it.
It's just a whole nother level of race car driving ability that I can't do. I couldn't be an in-race reporter. We've had so many people try and do it. They've been remarkably calm and collected. It's like they're able to separate that part of their mind out. But, some people like me, I'm sitting in the cockpit, I was like, shut up, stop talking to me. But no, Brandon Traino, doesn't even matter to him. 3 wide, I can hold a conversation too.
Yeah, it's always entertaining when you get the right driver as well. We've got Robert Malechka and Brandon Traino, the 2 perfect drivers to be in-race reporters. Chad Frankenfield up in the top 5 as well. I want to give him a bit of a special shout-out. We're celebrating our community, and Chad has done a great job with the Elite Racing League to put not just IndyCar series together, but iRacing series across the different disciplines of racing. But the thing that Chad has done so well with the IndyCar series in particular, Joey, is make these connections with real-world drivers to get the likes of Sage Karam, Santino Ferrucci, Stefan Wilson, RC Enerson. I can keep going on and on. Chad has been able to cultivate relationships and bring them into the sim racing world and allow some of our competitors in today's race to race alongside their heroes.
And again, that's the combination of the real-life IndyCar community and the virtual IndyCar community that's really helped everybody in this field, especially those that have raced in the Elite Racing League, to form a closer connection to IndyCar, to form a closer connection to the actual series, because that wouldn't be possible if these drivers couldn't come on and race with us. We couldn't experience our favorite car on this simulator. That's one of the reasons I ended up finally biting the bullet and downloading iRacing, getting everything set up. In the COVID shutdown, we had nothing but iRacing IndyCar events to watch with our favorite sport. When we had to watch Colton Herta and Alexander Rossi and everybody else just take on the virtual IndyCars, that was a great replacement. That made a lot of people more interested in IndyCar, and it especially made a lot more people interested in iRacing.
I think I can joke about it now, and I hope that, I know George Anzaldo is watching on. I hope he doesn't mind me bringing this up, but one of my final race in the Lionheart IndyCar series before I decided to commit a lot more to RaceSpotTV was their Indy 500, where I short-filled the car because I trusted Caps, which is, again, 100% my fault. But I ran out of fuel on the final lap, sputtered out of turn number 4, only to be rear-ended by poor Adrian Fernandez. And, oh boy, is that an experience that I would never have had without this fantastic community. Also, Lionheart, the main stomping ground of Sage Karam for many a year. I remember in 2021 commentating on him in their Retro Series, winning almost 6 races in the first 8 or something. Couple of cars I've just noticed are getting uncomfortably close to that outside wall. Jacob Oster in particular, they're all just searching for a little bit of clean air. Oster diving down a little bit lower because Chad Frankenfield has gone a little bit higher. But for those that haven't pitted, I'm quite curious what the tires must be feeling like right now.
Very, very bad. I can guarantee you that. And that is why you're starting to see guys extend the track a little bit, try and manage the speed as much as they can, keep up the speed as much as they can. But that's the trade-off. You can run high. You can run the Joey Tebbin line and just destroy your tires by running high all the time. Make those moves early, but the tires are going to be struggling later on. It's going to be so much slower through the corner. And if it is the Joey Tebbin line for real, you're probably going to hit the wall about 30 laps into the run.
We are seeing a bit of a split, by the way. Adam Blocker and Robert Malechka restarted in line. Blocker's been able to move his way forward into the top 3. Malechka down in 19th position. He's not forcing the issue just yet. See if having teammates to work with, though, at the end of this race is something that you want to be thinking about. 25 laps now done. Brandon Traynor that leads at the line, but 3 wide with Blocker diving down low and retaking the points of this race. I do want to say, if you're chatting along with us on YouTube, let us know where you're watching from, who you're cheering for, and let's not question my questionable pizza taste, because it is the superior pizza taste in the iRacing IndyCar community. Jeff Drake, by the way, has left the pit lane. Quite curious to see just how much damage he's got on his car. I was very much looking forward to seeing him out in action. Of the 42 that started, we said 6 had retired. Make that 5 now with Drake back on track. I'm not sure if we caught, by the way, what happened with Brendan Lichtenberg, though, Joey, because he's about 22 seconds adrift from your race leaders, but still on the lead lap.
Yeah, not entirely sure what happened to him either. I don't know if he got a wave around under a caution or something, and he's just barely on the lead lap, but things aren't going well for Brendan Lichtenberg, although if it's any solace for him, he is still on the lead lap. If the caution comes out, he'll have a chance to catch back up, but oh my goodness, we got craziness up front.
That's Andrew Kinsella, who slides up the track and hits the wall, but whoa, my days! Evan Adams, the unfortunate spearer of Andrew Kinsella. I see AJ Musselman mixed up in that one as well. The caution will fly for the 2nd time today. And Andrew Kinsella was down on the apron and bouncing until he was out of control and running up the track. And unfortunately, the cause of our 2nd caution here today.
And Brendan Lichtenberg, like we were mentioning, says, thank you very much. I'll get back on the lead lap. But Kinsella just loses it off of turn 4. I don't know if he had damage before that or what, but he was flailing all over the place, trying to catch the car. Evan Adams, nowhere to go, turns Andrew Kinsella into a helicopter, and 2 more dead cars.
I think AJ Musselman maybe also got tangled up in that because he had to tow back to the pit lane. But that was Josh Tucker, I think, that we saw come to a complete stop and able to avoid running into anything. So that's going to be caution number 2. And as we slow things down, I tell you what, let's go and see if we can check back in with split number 2, because they continue to rumble around Michigan with now 38 laps, I believe, in the books. And, well, would you see it? They are also under caution, and they also have a handful of cars diving their way down on towards the pit lane. Cars rolling out as well. And at a track like Michigan, just like it is at Indianapolis, Joey, once you strip out the downforce, getting into pit lane under green flag conditions, treacherous at the best of times. Getting into your box, also trickier than people will realize.
Yeah, I've done it so many times. Everybody has all those experiences, just locking it up a little bit too much, not necessarily being used to the brake pressure that you need to get it stopped in the box. But look at this, Bill Colley II. He was a driver who tried to qualify for the FTF Rectangle 500 a couple of days ago, didn't quite make the field, was just on the precipice of doing it, needed a little bit more speed, but he gets to lead in second split. He's also a cancer survivor, just trying to get back in the racing world, and he's able to do this through the IndyCar on iRacing.
So here comes the field into pit lane in the main split of competition. It will be Brandon Traynor that wins that race, though, off the pit road. Blocker in second. Chris Stouffer, I think, may have just beaten Mitch Welker out, with Frankenfield, Newsom, Oster, Porcelli, Pavelski, and Crane. The rest of the top 10. We haven't had the green flag cycle of pit stops just yet, but if we do get it, it's going to be treacherous. Let's give you a bit of an update on track conditions, by the way. We are starting to work our way upwards. Started at 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 48 degrees Celsius. It's gone up 4 degrees Celsius to 52. It's 125, 126 Fahrenheit. And the important point here, Joey, is the fact that it's only 12:30 in the afternoon, which in iRacing terms means we still have about an hour for it to get warmer.
It's gonna get even hotter. It's like a sous vide bath out there. I'm pretty sure you can cook a steak at 125 degrees Fahrenheit if you leave it in water for long enough in a sous vide machine. So just imagine what the tires are going through. If you can cook meat at these temperatures, you're gonna be melting those rubber tires into something like melted cheese.
So
speaking of pizza.
Speaking of questionable taste in pizza, here's a look on board with Evan Adams, and well, there's not much that he could really do. There's a big puff of smoke, and some will say that he should have gone down low, but at the same time, he's going to be thinking that if the car is coming down low, he needs to go up high. It's just one of those split-second decisions that, unfortunately, you have about a 50% chance of getting right at the best of times. Saw a comment in our YouTube chat, and I want to call these moments out. If you've gotten into IndyCar, if you've gotten into iRacing, or if anything has happened because of this car and this service, let us know. Seth Eggerts, one of the staff writers at Kicking the Tires and someone who's very active on social media in the world of esports, says that if it wasn't for the Dallara IRO 5 for Michigan, IMS, and iRacing, he wouldn't be where he is today. That is something I can very much agree with as well. Split 2, by the way, gets back underway as Barney the Flagman gets that green flag back out in hand. Front of the field, it sees SimRC's Marcel Fassbender. Often we see the Bumblebee running at the front of a IndyCar field. He's got Lionheart Series regular Matt Wagner on his heels. John Silver, the Brazilian, in third, with Mark Murphy, Dave Stedman, Chris Fowler, Hugo Gallus, Luke Daniels, Michael Hurley, and then Indy Cassie. The rest of the top 5 right now. They're going to wind to the end of lap number 40 or so we are going to get to the point where hopefully we can finish up split number 2 and watch them finish up before we get to split number 1. Meanwhile, though, Joey, I think the lights are off on the pace car. We're getting ready to go back racing.
We are indeed. And before we do go green, I'm not going to let Seth Eggert get out without a mention of this. He finished in the top 10 last night in that Rectangle 500, surviving from like 27th on the grid to be in the top 10.
Back underway, though, here in the main splits of the RaceSpot US 500 as we tick on over onto lap number 32. It's Traynor, Blocker, Stouffer, and Welker, the top 4, and already a few side-by-side moments as drivers build up that momentum and start now to figure out what fresh tires are all about. Remember, we have in-car adjustments, front and rear anti-roll bar, if you've got the rear anti-roll bar connected, as well as the weight jacker that will help you move the balance of the car from tight to loose. And of course, what you need on worn tires, very different to what you need on fresh tires, Joey. You've got to reset as we get back underway.
The Michigan master Malechka deeper in the field than he would have wanted. He wasn't getting aggressive in that initial stint after he did pit. He was just kind of riding around 16th, 17th in the middle of the field. Now the question is, does he decide to get more aggressive here? About 120 laps left to go in the race. It's going to be definitely possible to do 2 more stops to the end. If you do save a little bit of fuel, but are you going to get this aggressive right now? Are you going to make sure you're getting track position? I think that's David Porcelli. Matt Powelski's around as well.
Yeah, that bright orange car getting very, very lucky. A iRacing Indy 500 winner, able to get away with that one, unlike what we saw from Andrew Kinsella. And Pavelski's going to drop down the order in towards the very outside edges of the top 20. It's not a terrible place to be, if we're being honest, because there are some notable names that are electing to hang back and I think bide their time. The likes of Casey Kerwin riding in 25th position. The likes of Phil Kraus, 27th position. Pole position winner, not just for the iRacing Indianapolis 500 in 2022, the Open Wheels 500 as well, just a handful of weeks ago. Got Jason Brophy in 32nd as well, who's decided now is not the time to be fighting up at the front. It's a long way still to go in this one.
Yeah, Brophy has not really decided to fight at all. He did qualify, but he set a lap that was like 7 seconds slower than everybody else. So I think he was just trying to set a lap for the sake of setting a lap, getting ahead of a couple drivers who didn't qualify, but still starting at the back of the field. And he's still just biding his time back there, hanging out, waiting for another time to pounce. Henry Bennett, though, he's making moves. I think he did just make that move on Brian Carey, but Carey's coming back at him now.
Yeah, the teammates have Connor Harrington behind them. AJ Burton up in 11th position. And it's going to try and feed a little bit of dirty air to Connor Harrington as they work through the opening corner. When it comes to AJ Burton as well, he was looking forward to a trip to Indianapolis this past month of May to meet up with the rest of Team i5G and experience the thrill of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Unfortunately, COVID-19 had other plans, and so we had to cancel that, and unfortunately was unable to make the trip. I fortunately got his ticket instead, so thank you, AJ, for getting COVID. But he is looking forward for 2023 to be at the Speedway along with the rest of his teammates, and that's something that only really would have happened thanks to iRacing. I talked with Brendan Lichtenberg, said the very same thing. One of his favorite memories is not the races that he's done. Instead, it's been those moments shared with the teammates. Let's talk to Andrew Kinsella, who is standing by. Andrew, what happened off of turn number 4?
Yeah, I just fell behind on my adjustments there and got loose, and then unfortunately once I got loose, I got on the apron, I hit a bump that put me back up towards the track, upset the car more, back towards the apron, and then finally straight towards the outside wall. I think I had it pretty much saved, and then unfortunately Evan didn't see me there, and it's an unfortunate incident, but it can happen and stuff like this, and probably didn't help that I woke up with a little bit of a flu this morning, and I just wasn't quite 100%, and you need to be when you're going with 42 of the best IndyCar drivers there are out there. So
of course, you were with me about 24 hours ago when we were commentating on Friday Night Primetime at Spa-Francorchamps, Andrew. What's the next year going to look like for you? What does it mean for the IndyCar to be changing in such a significant way here on iRacing?
Yeah, it's so difficult because, I mean, not just on iRacing, but in general, I've been such a huge fan of IndyCar basically since I was a small little boy. I remember cheering for Paul Tracy in front of the TV when I was 4 or 5 years old, and it definitely feels like the relationship is now going to change because you do get that little bit of feeling of abandonment from the series based on the decision. But hopefully iRacing and IndyCar can come to some sort of an agreement where the fans that are so passionate about it can still do what we love to do. And in terms of plans, I think I will still be running some IndyCar races, not as much as before, but probably spreading out a little bit, maybe doing some LMDH running, some other open wheel cars. I've been meaning to try the Formula 1 car on here for a very long time, so it does give me the opportunity to maybe look to some of these other series and see what other cars are as enjoyable to drive as this car, because I will say, despite us going away from the broadcasting, this is one of the most enjoyable cars to drive on the service that I've ever driven, and I hope that other people do still try to check this out and that this series doesn't die entirely.
Talk a little bit about the Lionheart IndyCar Series as well, Andrew. You are their long-time setup builder, although for 2023 that will no longer be the case. It's a fantastic community. I've been a part of it myself, and you can tell, I think, a lot of people what the community has meant to building up IndyCar here on iRacing.
Absolutely. Whether it's Lionheart or whether it's the community in general, I don't think that there's a driver that comes in and isn't immediately sort of drawn not just to the iRacing side of things, but also to the real world side of things. We have so many meetups, like the Iowa meetup for our Lionheart series. It's sort of the central location for our league, and we would go to Iowa every time IndyCar ran there. And it just means so much to be able to connect with people on iRacing and then bring that to the real world and to our fandom in the real world as well. And I know that you as well have met so many people and had so many opportunities because of iRacing and IndyCar.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Andrew, not just in the booth, but for the race as well. And, well, hopefully it's not the last time we see you in an IndyCar on RaceSpotTV.
Thanks so much, Arjuna.
Kinsella joining us to share some of his thoughts as well as we get closer and closer to that 1/3 mark of this race. Joey, I think Andrew said, I think maybe one of the most significant things there, which is that the Lionheart IndyCar Series, yes, they had a yearly.
Oh, David Porcelli's off in the apron.
Oh, and that's our third yellow flag then. Whoa, Jacob Oster gets a bit of a wiggle there as he tries to slow things down. But David Porcelli already back in pit lane, not a small incident by any means, and Joey, we slow it down once more.
Yeah, I just noticed him in my periphery there, just absolutely shooting off onto the apron. It's not always a caution when you end up down there, but he must have bounced back up onto the track. There might have been a little bit of contact with Matt Hollabaugh there on the exit. Oh, he does get lodged in the wall.
He tried his best. It was one of those slow, painful rolls into the wall. And now we'll see if anyone decides to dive their way back down to pit lane. We've only been running for about 15 laps since that last caution. Trying to now work backwards on strategy with about 110 laps to go. If you're looking at a 47 lap fuel window in saving, I don't really think that's a fuel number you're going to be looking to hit. Here's the look on board as we ride through turns 1 and 2, though. He was already a little bit loose, you could see, and as he rides up the track, I don't know if there was contact as much as just maybe one of those seams unsettles the car, and he tries to lock over the hands to bring it out of the slide into the wall. Not much he could have done.
Yeah, hopefully we can get it on board with Matt Hollabaugh. I don't think there was any contact there. You could kind of tell from riding on board there that he did just get loose, and then he was going, no, 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 no. Ending up in the wall. Here we go. Here is the onboard with Matt Hollabaugh. Yep, no contact at all. Very good heads-up driving from Matt there to check up there, to not get into the back of Porcelli. Got to have that heads-up driving to adjust to that. And Jason Brophy's missed his pit stall.
Oh, it wouldn't be a send-off for the IndyCar without Jason Brophy and a mistake on pit lane. He knew I was waiting for this opportunity as well. The good thing is he's got a long time to fight this one back and get his way towards the front of the field. Race off a pit road, though. We'll see Brandon Traynor leapfrog Chad Frankenfield, who had led them down into the lane. It's Mitch Welker, Adam Blocker, Jacob Oster, no, Christopher in front of the Oster. Newsom, Bennett, Kerwin, the rest of your top 10. Craig Forsyth electing to stay out. I think we might see the Forsyth Racing Esports car dive back down to the pit lane. If our producer Hugo Luis is listening, please can we get a replay of Jason Brophy? But for now, let's talk a little bit about split number 2, because they're already on to lap 53, Joey, making significant headway through the race with Matt Wagner at the front of the field.
The last stop in this race and second split came 15 laps ago. That was lap number 38. That would leave about 128 laps to go until the end of the race. That would give you about 43 lap stints to make it to the end of the race. I think they should be good as well. But all these drivers up front, they're going to have to think about fuel saving as well. That's why you're seeing Matt Wagner and Dave Stedman up front switch back and forth. You're going to see Chris Fowler and Hugo Galaz do the same thing. All these guys are just trying to save that little bit of fuel so they can only do 2 stops to the end and not have to do another splash at the end.
Yeah, you got 2, 3, 4 Lionheart veterans in the top 5 of that second split, by the way. I was just trying to count them out one by one. Here's the look on board. So Jason Brophy makes a mistake on pit lane, but to be fair, it's more that he forgot where his pit stall was and then has to do the infinite point turn to try and get back into the box. Does he execute it? Yes, no, he did get it on the, I guess you can call that the first attempt to actually hit his marks.
I guess it could be worse because he was already basically at the back. He was already last. He wasn't really making any progress forward. He was just hanging out back there. So he didn't lose anything. He just got to get embarrassed by us for a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's going to be plenty of teasing on Jason Brophy's head, at least until 2023 starts, and then it won't stop after that. You can see those team affiliations on the left side of your screen. The Powerslide Motorsports 2 cars inside of the top 10. Team i5G, in their collaboration with the Apex Racing team, have 4 drivers inside of the top 10. Mitch Welker's closest teammate is going to be Matt Holliber. We talk about it a little bit now, but it's going to be more important when we get towards those final 20 laps, I'd say, of the race here, Joey, to be able to work with a teammate. But when we get to 5 to go, team affiliations go out the window.
That'll all be gone. You're not going to be worrying about whether you want your i5G teammate to win or whether you want your fellow AAIR driver to win. It is every single driver for themselves. But right now, especially in these stages of the race where you want to save a little bit of fuel, it definitely does help to have a teammate with you. It especially helps to have a teammate with you up front to switch back and forth with. Brandon Trano doesn't have that luxury, though.
Getting ready to go back racing with 47 laps complete. Still yet to get a green flag cycle of pit stops. Will this be the run? Brandon Trano leads the field back underway. Behind him, Chad Frankenfield, not the best of starts. Mitch Welker will look to the outside and will potentially sweep his way forward. Henry Bennett, I think, also caught napping on this restart. He's been passed by Casey Kerwin, AJ Burton, and now Rob Malechka will be the next in line to try and make something happen. I think the least coordinated restart we've had so far today, Joey.
It does help a little bit. It spreads things out just a little bit. Doesn't get us into the hornet's nest just yet. But Brandon Trano is under attack from Chad Frankenfield, who's already trying to pounce here. Adam Blocker swerves down about 5 lanes to go 3 wide. He's going to steal the lead.
We've seen plenty of 3 wide moments at the front, but it's not where we've really seen the trouble, at least just yet. It's when you get further back in the pack, where dirty air is playing a lot more of a factor as it compounds on up. See if we can cycle through to the pit stops this time around, though. Update on Craig Forsyth, who did stay out. Unfortunately, a connection issue has dropped him from the race. He scored as 1 lap down, I do believe, but he's back on track and trying to salvage something from this race. So Trano on the outside of Adam Blocker has Christopher directly behind him, Mitch Welker, and then his teammate Jacob Oster running almost above the 3rd seam, getting some clean air on the nose, but I don't necessarily think that's where he's going to want to be pinched. This is the point of the race where, with a couple of cautions under their belt, Joey, they're just trying to settle into a bit of a rhythm and ride until maybe the last 20 or 30 laps of the race.
Jacob Oster, though, I don't think he's trying to settle into a rhythm. He's running the highest of high lines. He's trying to peek to the outside of Mitch there, but he's not being given that line. The driver's in front of him. Christopher is also running that line. Mitch Welker also running that line. Jacob Oster loves to run the high line sometimes, but as I can speak from personal experience, you might love to run the high line, but when somebody takes it from you, it becomes essentially useless.
Chad Frankenfield giving a bit of a squeeze there to Blocker, but able to hold on to fresh tires as the track heats up and as the tires wear out. Do keep in mind that we are going to see cars down low have to struggle with the balance of their cars. Frankenfield will clear his way off of Blocker on the run into turn 1, but Blocker with the send will regain that footing. Now Stouffer on the outside of the 15 will try and challenge as Blocker looks for the race lead. They're not hanging around, at least just yet. They're showing that they're still ready to fight. On board with Frankenfield in the middle of the sandwich, and it shows just the lack of options that sometimes you've got to pick the best of, or maybe the least worst of.
Right now, you're basically locked into a 2-stop strategy from here because we restarted with 108 laps left to go. There's no way you can do 1 stop in 54-lap stints. So you're locked into having to do an extra stop at some point. All these drivers just want track position desperately right now. When another caution comes out, if it does even out the strategy again, you want that track position. That's why we're seeing people go 4 wide. That's why you're seeing Jacob Oster go for those moves early. That's why this stuff is getting crazy up front. Nobody's here to sit idle.
Do remember as well that RaceSpot has partnered up with the Open Medicine Foundation to organize a fundraiser as part of this RaceSpot US 500. You can donate directly on YouTube using YouTube Giving. YouTube will also cover 100% of the transaction fees to pay out the donation. They've been open for 10 years now. Has the OMF raised over $37 million to fund open and collaborative research to improve healthcare for millions suffering with multi-system chronic complex diseases. This community has already raised over $1,000 this year alone for OMF, and as we slow things down once more, do remember that every little bit will play its part. I think we've slowed things down because Shane Coogan has had a little bit of an incident. have to grab a look at the RaceSpot TV replay, though, Joey.
Looks like it was Shane Coogan round the back of the field. Jason Brophy behind, and it was not Brophy who he got involved with. Oh my goodness, Shane Coogan goes flying into the wall. There is the caution again. It's going to even everything out once more. How many laps do we have to go? 100 laps to go. It's not going to really change anything. So I don't think anybody's really going to come in here. But let's watch what happened to Shane Coogan again. There was a slow car ahead. I think
AJ Burton.
AJ Burton was slow ahead, and Shane couldn't react.
So I am guessing that AJ must have hit the wall into turn 1 to have been that slow, because remember, he had been running up towards the front at times, and it takes one of your Team i5G cars out of contention, and unfortunately Shane Coogan arrived on the scene of the incident, and much like Evan Adams, just didn't have enough time to make the right decision at the right time. So once again, slowing things down. This was one of the dangers that we kind of knew with taking 43 cars out to play at Michigan, and once again we're going to see the field coming on down, and I think this is at a crucial point of the race. About to hit about 100 laps to go. We've talked about how you can play the fuel-saving game to save 47 laps. What we haven't talked about, though, Joey, is that if you really want to do so, you can slow things down even more and slow the pack down to grab a couple more laps. And I think that may very well be what we're thinking about some of these drivers trying to do. Meanwhile, Split 2 back underway.
It's a tough thing to balance, thinking about fuel saving in that long of a run, but also balancing it with the fact that we've had, what, 3 or 4 cautions now in 56 laps? We've not had 100-lap runs so far. We've not had especially long green flag runs. So I don't know if you're going to be thinking about fuel saving right now. I think you're going to be thinking there's probably going to be a couple more cautions that come out. I need to make positions when I can get them. I can't just hang back in a lower fuel map and save fuel.
So Joe Branch, Matt Pavelski, Kevin Burrell currently at the front of the field, with Traino, Newsom, Stouffer, and Blocker behind. Those 3 cars have not dived down onto the pit lane, but they only have 11 lap old tires. Keep that in mind. All 3 drivers up at least 20 positions. In the case of Branch and Pavelski, 32 and 37 positions gained, respectively.
Heard from Evan Adams in the chat that AJ Burton either got clipped or got a little bit of netcode from Mitch Welker. That's why he was so slow in the turns 2 and 3, or in turns 1 and 2. I don't know if we saw that, but that's what Evan has diagnosed there.
Evan Adams, our pit lane reporter, it would seem, for today's race.
Might as well be.
Yeah, there's the look on that left side at some of those movers and shakers. Let's grab a look at split number 2, back underway with 93 laps to go. It's Mark Murphy, Indy Cassie, and Matt Wagner at the very front of the field, with Stedman, Fowler, Gallus, Silver, Reed, Hurley, and Fassbender the rest of the top 10. Out of the 33 that started this race, we're down to 23 still out there and running. But any one of these 23 cars still in with a chance, because it's basically one mega pack that swarms out of turn number 2.
And that's Paolo Vinicius. No, that's Marcel Fassbender peeking to the inside of Paolo Vinicius on the other hand. And Mark Murphy versus Indy Cassie up front. These are all the guys who have been stuck up here all night long, unless there's some kind of calamity that wipes out the likes of Murphy and Cassie and Wagner and Stedman and Fowler. I don't think it's going to be anybody out of those top 5 that steals this, but there's still 91 laps to go. There's still 180 miles to go. Everything can change.
3 wide, as I think that was Dave Stedman that was very, very nervy on the exit of turn number 2. Going to drop back slightly. That's Hugo Gallus now trying to look down his inside. Going to be able to get it done in that Backfire Motorsports machine, but in both splits of competition, nervy moments through the field. High temperatures, high tempers at times. Definitely tires screaming for a little bit of help. 90 laps to go for these drivers, already working lap 67 of the 156, but as they get ready to work down the back straightaway in our main splits, it is going to be Joe Branch in the intense racing number 26 that will get us back underway. Matt Pavelski and Kevin Burrell also on worn tires, but instantly Brandon Traino looks down the inside, and once again it's a restart. Not the best of coordinations through the field.
Traino should be able to swallow up Pavelski and Joe Branch pretty easily, but Joe has done a good job of branching out from the rest of the field. He's pulled a little bit of a gap up to Matt Pavelski. He's pulled just enough that he might be able to hold a little bit of a buffer. He's got 2 cars with him instead of just 1 and Brandon Trano trying to attack him. That might help him to have a little bit of a buffer behind him.
Thank you to Tyler Graff, to Evan Adams, to AJ Musselman, to Anonymous, and to Alexander Van der Sant for donating to the OMF. Also, shout out to Nick Sudik for doing so even before we got underway. It's 2 orange machines at the front, some orange, at least on the Catalyst 317, number 26 of Joe Branch. Matt Pavelski will look to the outside, but Brandon Trano will dive down low. The intense racing machine has to give a little bit of room, and now Brandon Trano, with his fresh tires, has the point of the field, with Alexis Newsom tucked in behind as well. 3 i5G machines running in the top 4.
Adam Blocker's joined the fray now. Chris Stouffer's joined the fray. Kevin Burrell is just getting swallowed up here. You can see even just 11 lap newer tires are really having an effect here. Pavelski and Branch are going to be able to hang on, but they're not going to be able to fight in the same way that Trano and Newsom and Blocker are going to be able to on that fresh rubber. You can already see Pavelski just trying to ride that high line, just trying to survive, and he's already lost about 5 spots in the space of 2 laps.
Track temperature still just below about 130 degrees Fahrenheit, but
Newsom and Blocker, oh my god.
Blocker may be blocking Newsom there, and I don't know how he got away with that one. Newsom does lose some momentum. It doesn't look like there's any damage on that number 63 Team i5G machine. Have to see if we can grab a closer look at exactly what happened between the 2 of them. Looked like they just locked wheels, and then from there, it was not easy for them to get separated out. Haven't lost too much time, not looking too slow either. We got away with that one.
They did get away with that, but you don't get away with that multiple times. They were interlocked. Those wheels were inside of each other. And again, Alexis Newsom makes contact with Kevin Burrell there. Gets away with it again, but Alexis Newsom does not seem comfortable right now. Just after that little bit of contact with Blocker, maybe there is a little bit of damage, but yeah, Blocker just comes up, and Alexis knew something was wrong.
It was almost as though Blocker got magnetized up into Newsom, though. That was the weird thing. Maybe just not judging the peripheral as well as possible. Adam Blocker does race in virtual reality. That's a talking point in these sort of cars as well. Virtual reality, triple screens, the ultra-wide monitors, and then for those just starting out, they're on the regular monitors, and they will make do with that, as do many of those the very top of their game as well. Newsom trying to stymie the bleeding, but going to be dropping outside of the top 15 now as Chris Wilhite fires it on past. Matt Holliber will try and do so as well. Malechka and then Carey for Powerslide Motorsports. Next up in line. One name that I'm very glad to see out there on track, not just because he's got his Twitch army following him through the course of this RaceSpot US 500, but Casey Kerwin joins us to say goodbye to this Dallara IR18. We saw him through the course of the iRacing Fixed 500s, finally able to grab the victory on the broadcast split earlier this year. We've seen him race on Monday nights as well, usually when we're on the streets of Long Beach, where Casey has a knack for just gaining iRating. But your 2022 eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series champion, there's a reason why he's good on the ovals, and he's proving that now up in the top 6.
Yeah, it's kind of unfair. Casey Kerwin drives anything he wants, masters Long Beach, wins in everything. It's unfair that some people are so talented in these things, but he's doing a great job tonight. We haven't mentioned him all that much, but I think that's kind of a good thing. He hasn't been in the hornet's nest. He hasn't been up front necessarily. He's just been biding his time. He's been riding around. He's been slowly but surely inching his way forward. And suddenly, with an incredible run here, he's got one car ahead of him, and it's Brandon Trano.
And in typical Casey Kerwin fashion, I'm following along with his Twitch stream right now and the 500 viewers that he's got. And cool as a cucumber. If you want to know his in-car tools, he's at 4 on the front anti-roll bar, 1 on the rear anti-roll bar, and now -8 on the weight jacker. So just an update on what Casey Kerwin is doing with the tools as well. Maybe not as close with Christopher as my voice thought, but you're always tracking one way as you exit a corner down low, and that is up high, and nervy moments there. But Kerwin now is up to second, so Blocker leads. The 95 XSET Gaming machine is in second, with Brandon Trano's Apex Racing with i5G machine now working his way alongside with Kerwin, Stouffer, Pavelski, Branch. The rest of the top 6 with Stouffer and Branch, 2 teammate finally able to link up with one another. We'll see if that's going to play out as we get closer and closer to the potential of green flag pit stops. And I'm hoping that when I say that, Joey, I'm not throwing a commentator's curse down.
It's entirely possible. I hope you have your in-commentator tools. You might need to turn your own weight jacker up a little bit. Your vocal cords might be a little bit tight. Might need to loosen them up a little bit. I need to do that too. But it is a struggle out there for some of these drivers. Casey Kerwin on -8 weight jacker. This is an open setup race. I do have to say that. So we don't really know what setup he's put on that car, but -8 weight jacker, for those of you who don't know, when you're in the negatives in the weight jacker, that tends to make the car a little bit tighter. It tends to make it want to turn a little bit less. When you're in the positive, you turn it up higher, car wants to turn more, gets a little bit looser. I don't know if Casey Kerwin's just put himself on a very, very loose setup, so he's turned the weight jacker down to the extreme to make sure he's not losing it in traffic, but that seems like a car that would be very, very difficult to drive in traffic right now.
What I will say is that Casey Kerwin is on a setup that is not too dissimilar from what some of the Powerslide Motorsports drivers are running. It does not have a rear anti-roll bar. How do I know that? I've said enough at this point. Kerwin starting to lose a little bit of momentum, though. Trapped down low. Does not seem as though that is where you would want to be the longer we go on these tire runs. Blocker still has control of the point, but once you're side by side, you very much want to be thinking about if you can get up a groove or two, and that's what we're seeing now from the likes of Frankenfield as well. Down low in 6th position. He's got Kerwin, who has finally migrated his way up high, and they'll continue to battle. I will say as well, what a spectacle the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series finale was this year, of course, with the 4 championship drivers racing on location at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And I think the thing that adds a little bit more familiarity to the drivers as they head into a lot of unknowns in that championship showdown, Joey, is the fact that they got to bring their own rigs. And for Casey Kerwin, who resides in North Carolina, it meant that not only did he not have to travel too far, he could sleep in his own bed, and his family was there supporting him.
The old home field advantage, it always helps. It always helps here as well. You know, these drivers are all at home right now. There's nobody racing from the team shops. There's none of that going on right now. Everybody is at their most comfortable, but there's also all those things we've talked about, whether you're on a single monitor, whether you're in VR, whether you have multiple monitors. There's all different comfort levels. Everybody's comfortable with their own things, but some drivers do have that extra level of comfort. They're able to converse with us during the race, like Brandon Treno. Others, they need a little bit more silence. They need to be a little bit more focused.
Yeah, I feel like right now is not the time to go and talk to Brandon Treno, so we're gonna.
That means that it is the time.
No. What I mean is that we have 2 in-race reporters, so I think it's time instead that we disturb Robert Malechko, who after leading for part of this race has been hanging back in 19th position. Chef Bert, what is going on?
I was trying to drink some water, but honestly, you made me jump scare a bit. Yeah, just kind of riding and saving, make that last stint as short as possible right now. I think that's what Bill's doing, and we've been kind of seeing guys get loose off the bottom, so kind of making sure I have time to avoid the wreck because I've been around a few already, so I'm trying to survive until the last stint.
So are you thinking that this could potentially be a one-stop, or is there no chance of that?
No chance. I mean, maybe if we get 1, maybe 2 yellows, and the field would have to really slow down, but Treno and Adam are really kind of pushing the pace right now.
So what's your plan then when you get to the front at the end of this race? We've seen plenty of 3 wide finishes at Michigan this year. You want to be on the right side of the 1,000th, I'm guessing.
Yeah, hopefully this time. I mean, with these temps, you know, they're kind of going between 50 and 55 Celsius right now, which is on the limit of being able to hold the white line. So I don't think the bottom will be preferred, but you really never know if we get a cloud at the very end.
Thanks for letting us disturb you once more and scaring you as well. I'm never going to forget that moment. We'll let Robert Malechka go back off to his teammates at Powerslide Motorsports. And again, we thank him and Brandon Treno for allowing us to peek inside of the visor, as it were, as he works with Phil Krause slightly further back in the field. They've also got Tanner Watkins back. I mentioned this when I read through the grid, but Tanner Watkins, the founder of the Open Wheels 500-mile race, which of course Joey got to commentate alongside myself just a handful of weeks ago. Tanner unfortunately sold his sim rig earlier this year, got married in November as well. Wanted to be a part of this race so much, he gets a little bit loose out of turn 2 there. Wanted to be a part of this race so much, Joey, that he decided to send a message to the person, a friend that he had sold his rig to, and said, excuse me, I've got a race. Please let me come back. And we get Tanner back on the grid for our final ride.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. Desperately wanted to be in the field, and you know, a lot of people could probably do that. If you're not at your home rig, might as well call up a buddy. Is Christopher's in the wall?
Yeah, now is he gotten into the wall, or is he just slow because he's gotten loose? Doesn't seem as slow as some of the other cars that have had major dramas. Thinking back to AJ Burden, and from a brief glimpse at the side pod of the car, I think he looks all right. We'll get a better shot here as that, side pod looks perfectly okay. Get a look at the RaceSpotTV replay though as they dive down in towards turn number 1. Stouffer does run up against the wall, but about as light a brush as I think you can get away with.
He was just trying to run the highest of high lines. He was just trying to peek to the outside of Adam Blocker, steal a little bit of clean air. Unfortunately, this track is only so wide, and eventually you do clip safer barrier. You can try and run the Kyle Larson line up there, but there's no real air bubble to play with in these cars.
78 laps now in the books as we tick closer and closer to a potential cycle of green flag pit stops, because do remember we had 3 that stayed out on the last caution. They have ticked on over to lap 34 of their run. It is going to be quite close between the 2 splits, by the way. Second split onto lap 83. Only about a 4-lap difference between them right now. Mark Murphy still leads from Marcel Fassbender, Jacob Reed, John Silver, and Chris Fowler in that second split. Do remember, RaceSpot.tv /timing2 if you want to grab a live look at how they're shaking out in that second split down below. Still though, not much drama. We're seeing more single file than we were about 10 laps ago, as I have seen a handful of cars dive down below the apron a little bit further back. I'm not sure if there was a moment for Adam Crane potentially in his satellite racing entry. We'll have to see if we can get word from maybe Evan Adams watching down from the pit lane. Joey, let's go back as well to Tanner Watkins. It's not just the Open Wheels 500. It's not just the likes of the Elite Racing League and the Lionheart Racing Series that have built communities around this car, this series on iRacing, but so many smaller ones as well, and so many ones that maybe we don't talk about here on RaceSpot, unfortunately, with the likes of the PMRL, the Formula Indy Series, even the Reddit IndyCar iRacing League sometimes runs some Indy cars as well. These are communities that are very much going to be changing as we move on forward.
It's impossible to tell what's going to happen in the future. With all those people from the Formula Indy Series, especially Gary Godso, Stephen Larkamp, they do so much work in bringing these cars to the people, bringing some fixed splits to the people, bringing the Open Series to the people, and the Formula Indy Series as well. There's just so much opportunity in this car on iRacing. You search iRacing YouTube IndyCar broadcast on YouTube or whatever, you're going to find probably 10, 12, 13 different broadcasts a week. I don't want all of them to be gone. I hope they're not all gone, but there is a huge community. It's bigger than any of us could possibly quantify.
Absolutely. In terms of Lionheart competition, by the way, for those of you that are regular viewers on RaceSpot TV, Wednesday nights going to be a little bit dark, unfortunately, but the Lionheart Retro Series on Thursday nights will have a 22-round calendar is what has been indicated, so we're going to take that up a couple more races. It'll be interesting how that Lotus 79 fares on not just the road courses, but on ovals as well. And on Monday nights, we'll have to wave goodbye, unfortunately, to the Dallara DW12 and instead say hello to a sports car series that sounds quite interesting. 90-minute races, the brand new BMW LMDH alongside with the BMW M4 GT3 machinery. 2 classes of competition, some rather interesting tracks that will be live on RaceSpot TV on Monday evenings as we head into March and April of 2022. So keep your eye out on that. On board with Mitch Welker, one of our standout drivers in the Open Wheels Grand Prix until things went a little bit worse for the wear, as it were, with a penalty down on pit lane that was not rectified in time. But he's someone that I can very much connect with, Joey, because I was a road course driver, solely a road course driver. I didn't want to get into oval racing. I thought it was boring. I thought it was turning left. but much like Mitch, once I tried a few oval races, especially in this Dallara IR18, boy, did my opinion change.
Especially when you take this car to a place like Iowa, to a place like Michigan, where it was really designed to be. It is one of the best things you can do. It's one of the best cars you can race on iRacing. It's one of the best combinations you can do anywhere in all of video games. IndyCar at Iowa, IndyCar at Michigan, you can't beat it. Even if you don't think you're a fan of ovals, try it. You're gonna like it.
It's as simple as that, to be honest. I did mention the commotion a handful of laps ago with some cars ducking down low trying to avoid some trouble out of turn 2. Seems as though it may have been Phil Kraus in trouble because he's had to make a trip down towards the pit lane. He is still running on track, albeit one lap down in 27th position. There is that bright pink machine for the private label Team Hype, so dominant in the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. I think it was 11 wins in 22 races. Remarkable. Didn't finish outside of the podium spots until I think we got to the very last round of the year, but doesn't seem as though there was a hard hit into the wall, but 13.4 seconds pit stop time, Joey. I think that indicates potentially a front wing change.
Something definitely got fixed on that car, and hopefully this isn't 2023 ending on a low of momentum for Phil Kraus. We talked in that Lionheart broadcast in the pre-race about how Phil Kraus has gone every single race of the season, being on the podium. It was a historic run, and then the second we started pointing it out, he was down for the count. I think he finished P11 in that race, but here comes Matt Pavelski. He's finally got to come in. Remember, he was on a different strategy to everybody in the lead of this race. He was about 11 laps older on those tires. After 34 laps, he's in.
And he did not forget, like Jason Brophy did, where his box was, so Matt Pavelski is able to hit his marks and dive his way on in. Of course, don't forget that we'll see Kevin Durrell and Joe Branch also working their way through the pit lane momentarily. Hugo Luis has done his magic on the turntables, and as they worked off of turn 2, a bit of a check up there with, I think, Frank Levick, that then saw Adam Crane run into the back of him, and Phil Kraus, well, went airborne status for a moment. Lucky it wasn't space shuttle status. That was on lap number 80, so about 10 laps ago, and Phil Kraus is back down on pit lane. I don't think that car would have been fully repaired after just a front wing change.
Yeah, might need a little bit of help with his spine there after that drop onto the ground as well, but that car is going to be struggling. Him and Alexis Newsom both definitely have a little bit of damage just from those little minor bits of contact, and that can really hurt you here. High-speed track, you want to be at the highest possible speed here. There's a little bit of damage, it can certainly kill you. Here comes those other two drivers on that strategy as well. Joe Branch and whoever else was on the other strategy. I don't remember who was joining him. Kevin Burrell.
The man with the most fabulous facial hair in all of iRacing, if we're being totally honest.
I needed it to be on the car. I need to see that facial hair on the car. I'll be able to pick it out easier.
True, that is a good point. And if you want to show me more astonishing facial hair, at Arjuna Kankipati on Twitter, I do want to see what the most impressive facial hair in sim racing is, because that's definitely not me. I can do the Wolverine, but that's about it. Phil Kraus officially confirmed out of this race. He was hanging back and biding his time, did not play out for him. 42 cars took to the green flag. We're down to 27, still out there and running.
Trano and Blocker still just doing Trano and Blocker things, switching back and forth. They're basically all on their lonesome, because Casey Kerwin has fallen back just a little bit. He's not in the distance. He hasn't lost these two, but he is 8 full tenths of a second behind. He's got to focus more on Jacob Oster and on Mitch Welker and even on Henry Bennett, who's kind of joining the fray here. Although Oster almost got in the wall through 1 and 2. He's still trying to run that high line. It's not working for him. Casey Kerwin's able to run lower. He's able to run in almost clean air because Trano and Blocker are so far ahead. And Oster's not really able to do anything for Casey.
Ooh. And here comes Brandon Trano, 37 laps in. Begins the cycle of proper green flag pit stops. So we've hit this mark where by coming in early, you put yourself in towards the danger zone. And a quote from NBC is what we're going to do right now. Pit lane time, about 32 odd seconds here. A lap time at Michigan, about 32 seconds. Factor in the amount of speed you shed to get down onto the lane and how much time it takes to get back up to racing speed. And just about a lap down, and we'll see exactly how far behind Adam Blocker, Brandon Traino is as he releases himself off of the limiter and begins to build up once more. Field starts to come in more and more though. Frankenfield and Marquez, they're boxing this time around. Coming in with Brandon Traino, I think the likes of Matt Pavelski has already pitted, of course, but we saw Connor Harrington, I think Nick Sudik also electing to dive as well into pit lane. About half a straight, the difference between Blocker and Traino now.
Mitch Welker versus Jacob Oster. Now Malechka joining the fray as well, and Malechka is just going to blow by these guys as Blocker does pit as well. It becomes the battle for P2. Malechka is absolutely flying right now. He was definitely saving a little bit back there. He wasn't an 18th on pace. He saved quite a bit. He's already in second past Jacob Oster.
I think he was saving tires as well, which is the crucial bit because he just flown his way forward. Now do remember the little bit of a buffer that Blocker and Traino had built to Casey Kerwin is going to slightly help them through the cycle of pit stops because they are two of the best in executing on the lane, but it also will give them just that little bit more margin with which to work and how aggressive they truly want to be in getting down to pit road speed. Brandon Traino shows what fresh tires are worth as he flies past Robert Malechka in the same way that Malechka flew past Oster just a handful of moments ago. Blocker has come out quite significantly behind Brandon Traino, though. The gap between the two of them, 2.7 seconds, with Blocker spending a full second longer in the box itself. Not exactly sure if that was just more fuel needing to be put in the car, but this is what you expect with green flag stops. It breaks the field up.
It does. Here comes Casey Kerwin. Malechka's going to take the lead of the race. He's in basically his own zip code right now. He's getting a little bit of the draft from Brandon Traino. He's getting a little bit of help, so he's not going to fall too far back, but he is all in his lonesome as Kerwin is in, Brian Carey's in, Henry Bennett's in. That leaves two drivers who have yet to pit, and Malechka's still not coming in. He's still waiting. He saved quite a bit of fuel.
He's coming in
just
now,
kidding.
though.
He tricked me.
Lap 42 locks up the inside front, but I think able to slow that car down in time. Adam Crane. Is Adam Crane coming in? Yes. So lap 98, the furthest that anyone was able to stretch the fuel out. Means they're looking at 58 laps to get to the end, or in the case of Robert Malechka, a 16-lap final stint, depending on how he wants to play it. We know that tires are important, and I would think that the best thing to do at this juncture, Joey, would be to split the rest of the race in half.
That's the decision you have to make. You can see the length of the stint that drivers were able to go. 42 laps. We've got 57 laps left to go. So what are you going to do? Are you going to go 42 and 17? Are you going to go 28 and 28? That's the decision everybody has to make. Do you want track position now? Do you want it later? Do you want it in the middle of the race? It's one of those impossible decisions. And all the drivers who have strategists on their stands, who have people specifically dedicated to doing their strategy, they're going to have a great advantage here. Mitch Welker, unfortunately, he's not going to have that benefit because all of his strategists are either in races or wrecked out. I don't know if Evan Adams has become strategist now. I don't know if he's too busy being our unpaid pit reporter, but maybe Evan and Doug South have gone into pit strategy duty. I hope they have, because you're going to need to do quite a bit of math here.
It's going to now as well take a team coordination between Malechka and Blocker to swap back and forth to close back up to Brandon Traino, who has built a 2.2 second advantage at the front. And that may sound good if you're Brandon Traino, but realistically, it's now a handful of laps where you're punching a hole in the air by yourself, you're doing no fuel saving, and the rest of the field is just charging up on you. So how will that play out? 100 laps now done, 56 to go. Traino, Malechka, Blocker, Welker, and Brophy the top 5, with Bennett, Pavelski, Wilhite, Oster, and Branch making up the rest of the top 10. Biggest mover so far. A driver that I did call out slightly earlier is waiting and biding his time. It's also the man that we threw under the bus for, again, making an error on pit lane. Jason Brophy is 33 positions up and into the top 5.
We did throw Jason Brophy under the bus, but I guess it's fitting. In that green car, that bright green car, he's turned into the Hulk. He's lifted that bus up, he's thrown it away, and he's driven his way back up into the top 5. Completely legitimately here on the same pit strategy as everybody else. I'm not going to count Jason Brophy out for this win. I don't know what else he's got into the tank. I don't know how he's going to get by everybody.
Adam Crane has had to come back down to pit lane for speeding, I believe, on pit exit, and that will take that 29 satellite racing machine out of contention. So the 2022 Open Wheels Grand Prix winner will now drop one lap down.
And that's the trouble with IndyCar over racing. When you do go one lap down, unless you're in front of the leaders, you don't get a wave around. So Crane is basically locked in unless there's multiple cautions, unless there's some pit strategy shenanigans where he does end up ahead of the leaders. He's locked a lap down. He's not going to give up. That's not an Adam Crane kind of thing to do. He's still going to stick it out there, but suddenly his life has just gotten almost impossibly difficult.
In terms of the track conditions, by the way, we have officially reached 130 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the warmest that it's been so far, and it's proving difficult for those through the field to be able to make moves. The leaders, though, the chasing pack has managed to catch the leader. Brandon Traino has the rear view mirrors now filled with Robert Malechka and Adam Blocker once more. They brought Mitch Welker, Jason Brophy, Henry Bennett, and Matt Pavelski along with them. And then a 2-second gap to Chad Frankenfield and Chris Wilhite, who run at 8th and 9th, now running at the front of that first pack. Like I said earlier, Joey, green flag pit stops are great because it does start to break up the field, albeit slightly. 7 cars fighting at the front.
Malechka and Blocker were able to work together very, very well there. They were able to jump each other. They were able to leapfrog each other. That brought that gap down to Traino. I don't think Traino was especially saving or anything to bring them into the fray. They were just that much quicker. And there goes Blocker to the lead now. It was a 2-car battle. It's now a 3-car battle. And yeah, Mitchell Welker has joined the back of this train as well. It's a 4-car battle. But my question actually is, where did Casey Kerwin go? He's down in P11 after that pit stop didn't go so hot for him. He was in the lane for 39.5 seconds. He must have missed his box.
Ooh, yes. And I did mention how treacherous it can be getting these cars down and stopped even at pit speed limit. It's not an easy thing once you strip the downforce off these cars, and we saw it most notably back, of course, was it this year in the Indy 500 or last year, when I think 3 or 4 different cars all had their brakes seized up seemingly at the rear and pivot them around, just because of how difficult it truly can be. And of course in the real world they play some games as well. It's not so much fighting at the front where it's feisty right now. You have to go back to that second pack. Jacob Oser running at the front of that field with Chad Frankenfield, Casey Kerwin, Christopher and Joe Branch all fighting amongst themselves. They've been 2 wide, they've been 3 wide. They continue to battle back and forth. It's great to watch, but they've lost a lot of time. Half a second the last lap alone.
And this isn't really like a restrictor plate race in NASCAR where you can line up, you can work together to bring that gap down. They're trying to leapfrog each other, Oster and Frankenfield are, but they're guaranteed to slow each other down. They can't really do anything together to bring this gap down, to catch Pavelski and the rest of the gang on the top 7. They're basically hoping for a caution right now. The way that switches back, though, is you have to make sure you're not the caution. You can fight as hard as you want to be the leader of this group, but you don't want to be the reason for the caution to come out. You want that to happen a little bit behind you or ahead of you. That would be helpful too.
These drivers working onto lap 108. We have started to track slightly ahead in this main split of the second split, where cautions are starting to slow things down. You can see they're getting ready to restart with about 58 odd laps to go. Across the line with Mark Murphy still leading from Marcel Fassbender, Jacob Reed, Chris Fowler, and Matt Wagner. But already, they've unfortunately had an issue getting restarted, and they'll slow things down once more. About 20-plus cars still battling in that second split, and we are going, I think, to get the chance to watch them at some point. There we can see the aftermath after the incident had already occurred. Seems like what we would have expected back on lap 1 in our US 500 reenactment.
We're getting a little bit of realism. Bill Colley was the driver at the head of all. No, he was in the back. He got punted there by the driver in the black car, who I believe was Christopher Hetzel, and then Andrew Adair Saunders as well in that bright green Jason Brophy looking car. Just ended up getting a bite out of that. But Bill Colley basically just got punted up the back there.
Big problems in that second split right now as they continue to work their way through. 46 laps to go, though, for these top split drivers as they wind once more out of turn number 2. Now, you mentioned open setups. One thing that we should consider as well, especially now that I'm, factoring in some of the longer stop times that I see drivers. is, are they making slight adjustments to the car in the stops? Now, the slight adjustments that we've been talking about, of course, Joey, would be the front and rear, the front wing angles to try and maybe get a little bit more or a little less downforce. But these are adjustments that you also have to build into the setup before you go racing.
It is almost an impossible task to do all this on your lonesome. You want a crew chief in your ear. You want somebody who's specifically dedicated to just hearing what you have to say. When you're a driver, you want somebody who will hear all your complaints, who will hear everything that's going wrong with the car, and they'll be able to do that for you. But when you're a driver and a crew chief at the same time, you've got to go 3 wide with Blocker and Trano, and you've also got to think about the math of what adjustments you want to make. You've got to make the adjustments yourself. You've got to set them up. It's such a difficult task. There's so many things you have to balance here.
I think different the fact that we're not racing in Indianapolis. I know I've seen a couple of comments in our YouTube chat about the fact that a send-off is not at Indianapolis. A lot of these drivers have had their fair share of Indianapolis, especially just coming off of that Open Wheels 500. It's nice to mix things up and have a slightly different of a race. Don't forget that you can catch the full coverage of not just the Open Wheels 500, but the iRacing Indianapolis 500 in 2022, live only on the RaceSpotTV YouTube channel. Scroll back through the archive, because that's what we may have, unfortunately, for the time being. Brophy up high, Trano down low. He'll retake the race lead. He calls it green, Jason Brophy calls it Grello, but regardless, it's a fast car right now as he charges his way forward, and Brophy will look to the middle, 3 wide onto lap 115. Still 7 contenders at the front of the field, Joey, and it's anyone's game.
I can't say it's Grello at all. It's not even slightly yellow. It's completely green, but either way, Jason Brophy in the green apple car, I guess he slurpeed up that position. It's a delicious looking car, and he's already down to second, though. In that's one Slurpee reference, that's what cursed him.
Apparently it was that one Slurpee reference. Private label Team Hypes, 2 years in a row, your team champions in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. See if they can maintain that in 2023. So it's Brophy now at the front for the very first time. 37 positions gained. Trano, Blocker, Welker, Bennett, Malechka, the top 6 with Pavelski still hanging on. So you've got 2 of the Team i5G and the Apex Racing team machines. That's Trano and Pavelski. You've got Milch Welker by himself for the All-American iRacers with Project 2. You've got Jason Brophy by himself for the private label Team Hype with Team Talent. And then Blocker, Bennett, and Malechka, all for Powerslide Motorsports. Maybe thinking about how they can work together at this point. You can see on that left side of the screen, it's not Brophy who's the only one up 30 positions. Matt Pavelski plus 32 as well.
Jason Brophy is up more than a full Indy 500 field. You don't often see that. You don't often see a driver 36 spots up from where they started. The only driver who I can really remember doing that much in terms of driving in the head of the field was Jose Soria during VCO Infinity, when he kept starting dead last and he kept making up like 30 spots each race. Hasn't had quite the same luck tonight, but Jason Brophy's picking up the mantle.
Jose Soria is one of those drivers that was only introduced to the IndyCar because of the ISOWC, the series that we had last summer, with 10 former or current iRacing World Championship competitors up in the field, including that iRacing Rallycross World Champion Johan Harth. $7,000 on the line, and it was the Flying Finn, Valtteri Alander, that blew everybody away with his performances, not just on the road courses, where he was the tire whisperer, finding speed from the primary compound of tire, that I think a lot of the teams just looked at and marveled at how he was able to extract the performance. And also on the ovals, where he was in contention all the way to the checkered flag at Auto Club in what was his 3rd open wheel oval race ever. Unfortunately, the less we say about the final 100 meters of the race, the better, especially since Christian Steele is watching onto the YouTube chat. He did end up qualifying for the ISOWC 500 inside of the Fast 9, but then I think struggled a little bit in the race, and like similar kind of a story in the month of May this year, making his first appearance in the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Valtteri Alander very much showing why the IndyCar being exposed to some of those top-level drivers. Of course, Valtteri Alander, formerly of Covert Esports, and now a member over at BS Competition. but showing why introducing the car to that caliber of driver is so important. And it's quite funny. We could have very credibly had Gregor Hutu in that series, Joey, if we got rid of the 2 oval races.
Gregor's just got to give it a try. You know, pop up Iowa. I think Gregor would like it, but I'm glad we're back on the Finland topic because that just makes me think of Koti Pizza again. I'm still waiting for the offer. You know, I'm here. If you want to ship some Koti Pizza from Finland to Pennsylvania, a little bit of dry ice in there, I'm here, Koti Pizza. I'm here.
Sounds like you need to talk to one of our producers, Iku Merakala at RaceSpot, see what he can organize. I'm going to have to go see what this Koti Pizza looks like. Does it truly live up to, as Andrew Kinsella's wife called me out for, my quote-unquote questionable taste in pizza? The second pack has momentarily stymied the bleeding, although having said that, the last couple of laps, it's been a tenth or two that the lead pack has been able to gain once more. You can see single file with Oster in front of Frankenfield and Kerwin. But I think the reality is, at this point, Joey, these drivers need a caution to bring them back into contention.
Yeah, just passing Brendan Lichtenberg up there. He's a lap down, so that's not for position. You're exactly right. They do need a caution. Maybe when, or if, I should say, not when, another cycle of green flag pit stops comes around in about 12 laps time. If somebody can perform some sort of miracle here, if there's a little bit of a Jacob's ladder from the 7 cars ahead, and they separate little by little by little to form a path somewhat closer to Jacob Oster, but yeah, they need a caution. Like I said, they just need to make sure they're not in the caution, though, and they've been doing a pretty good job here of staying separated. There's not been any 3-wide, 4-wide action back here. Part of that is because the track is continuing to get hotter, but they've been well behaved. They haven't brought out the caution.
Not just yet. They have not brought out the caution. Give a shout out as well to some of those behind the scenes making not just this event possible, but the likes of the Open Wheels 500 and the ISOWC in the last handful of years. Danny Elgobe with some fantastic graphics work that has really taken remarkable steps since the ISOWC. I encourage people to go over to the Open Wheels 500 Twitter page and just see some of the work that Danny was putting out for us. Mitch Welker as well has had some fun with this inaugural and likely final RaceSpot US 500, and there's a handful of drivers that have shown up with merchandise that is available on Redbubble. The link not going to be, I think, too publicly shared, but you can find it if you have enough of a will. And I'm just saying that I'm going to rock up in a bucket hat to Indianapolis come the month of May with my RaceSpot US 500. I was there, bucket hat. I think I'm going to go for the pink color, though, Joey.
I've got a mug coming in the mail right now, so anytime I'm sipping on Swiss Miss or some kind of tea or some variety of hot beverage, I'll remember. I was there. I'm not losing my edge, but I was there.
One of my teammates, Joey, by the way, wants to ask how you've tried a Koti Pizza in Pennsylvania. Timu Ronko from Finland is very amazed that you have knowledge of this.
I haven't tried it. I've just seen it through, you know, sim racing, through sponsorship. All the Finnish drivers run that Koti Pizza sponsorship with, I believe Asian Puhaka was in our Twitch chat during one of the previous events this year, and I always want to try new things. I want to go to Finland. Take me to Finland, somebody.
I'd like to go to Finland as well. That does sound quite fun. Pit stops, by the way, are underway, and I think this is the right time to come and do it. Split the race in half, because we know how important tires are. Track temperature is only going up. It's up to 56 degrees Celsius now. We're above 130 degrees Fahrenheit. It's 133 degrees Fahrenheit once you round it up. Tires are important, and that's why I think those behind are trying to get track position, gambling on another caution. Those at the front, though, Joey, with that said, will be looking to go as long as possible.
I do wonder, though, will there be a little bit of an alternate strategy? Will somebody decide to go for an undercut in this top 7? Maybe if you're Matt Pavelski, maybe if you're Mitch Welker, you're in danger of getting trapped a lap down if you do pit early. But also, you'll be on fresher tires, you might be able to get a little bit more of a run, and you might be able to lead this pack once everything cycles around. And I think everybody's probably going to be fairly equal here as Jason Brophy almost gets into the wall through 1 and 2. I think once Blocker or Treno comes in, the rest are probably going to follow him in fairly quickly.
Trying to just track who's coming down now. I see Matt Holliver, one of those who's on towards the pit lane. Has Chad Frankenfield's race come to an unfortunate end? It has, with speeding on pit entry. Oh, he was having such a good race up towards the front at times as well. And Chad will now drop down at least about 30-odd seconds, aka go one lap down. Couple more cars, though, down on towards the pit lane. Marquez, Stouffer, Nick Sudik as well. Pit lane's getting busy.
Very, very busy. Is Trano going to come down this time? Probably not, with Blocker behind him. Nope, he does. Trano is in this time. Mitch Welker follows him in, barely gets it slowed down. Leaders starting to come in.
So what, 21 laps to go now. How long will the Powerslide Motorsports teammates at the front elect to run this? Bennett and Brophy fighting side by side, and about a full second off of those up front. See if they're able to coordinate on pit entries. As we see Trano and company drop off the Jackson roll, the Powerslide teammates will continue to run, but Jason Brophy does dive his way down on in.
Brophy doesn't want to lose Welker and Trano. He doesn't want to let them get that undercut, so he's going to immediately come in. I believe he did get it stopped in his box. There's a little bit of smoke behind, which scares me, and there's the caution.
And who does this trap one lap down? I think Frank Levick is that Team Talent car that's stuck down between it's either turn 1 or 2 or turn 3 and 4, I could guess, and have a 50% chance of getting it right. But now the game has been changed. Brandon Trano and the rest of the field are likely to get their laps back, but they'll start in 11th, and with some work to do, Levick coming to blows with one of the Skowers machines, and he gets the worst of it, to be fair, a hellacious lick into the wall.
I think that was David Graybill who he came together with, but everything was fine. He had it saved, and then there was clearly something broken on the car. He tried to overcorrect it, and he ate big wall there. But Trano and Welker, they're going to be a lap down, or they're a lap down right now. Pavelski, Harrington, Hollabaugh, all that gang, they are a lap down. They will get their lap back when everybody pits here, but they can only start as high as 10th pretty much, and they're going to be behind a bunch of lap traffic.
Actually,
the person this helps, though, Jason Brophy, still on the lead lap, and his stop is done.
Yeah, I was going to say, where is Jason Brophy in relation to Brandon Trano? He's still trying to catch up with the field, so yes, Trano and company will get their laps back. My, oh my. Here's a look on board with Alexis Newsom, by the way, 2021 Lionheart Speedway Series champion, as she tried to make her way to pit entry, and the caution came out at just the wrong time for her. Heads up driving, though, I tell you, and amazing car control to keep that one on the straight and narrow. You heard Andrew Kinsella talk about just how bumpy the apron is. Rallycross driving on display right there.
Maybe that'll be in Alexis Newsom's future. You know, with the absence of IndyCar broadcast, potentially, Alexis, maybe it's time to pick up the Rallycross cars and the jumpy trucks. Maybe that's her next destiny.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hopefully another season of the Jumpy Trucks, the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series. That was so much fun in 2021. See what it shapes up for in 2023. Off of pit road, Malechka in front of Blocker, Bennett, Kerwin, Oster, Carey, Newsom, Craig, and Watkins. And now we'll wait for Brandon Trano and the rest of those trapped one lap down to cycle their way on through. Thank you again to Alex Guyon and to the Lionheart Racing Series for helping in our fundraiser for the Open Medicine Foundation. Unfortunately, for those of you in countries where YouTube giving is not available, we don't have an alternative for you at this time, but we thank you for at least thinking of it. And do remember, every little bit matters. Our community has already raised over $1,000 for OMF earlier this year, and we're looking to do the same to close the year out. Every little bit matters, and YouTube covers the entirety of the transaction fee as well, so keep that in mind. You can see the team affiliations on the left side of the screen. Powerslide Motorsports have 4 cars inside of the top 10. I5G have 2 cars with Brandon Trano just outside, and Matt Pavelski not too far behind them either. Casey Kerwin's by himself in the XZ Gaming number 95. Jason Brophy leads for the private label Team Hype, and his closest teammate and last remaining teammate, at least in terms of private label Team Hype affiliation, is Connor Harrington, but of course with Tanner Watkins in 10th as well. We'll see exactly how that one shakes out. Lights are off on the pace car. We're getting ready to go racing once again, and it will be, I think, 21 laps to go.
It's either perfectly fitting or very ironic that after 2022 of Jason Brophy making mistakes on pit lane, having all sorts of troubles, he gets the race lead from pitting at the most opportune time possible to not go a lap down and to jump everybody. You know, all that bad karma, all that bad luck on pit lane, has it finally reversed for Jason Brophy? There's still 21 more laps for things to go wrong, but for now, he's got the good luck of his life right now.
It is toasty out there on track, by the way. It is still the 133 Fahrenheit as it's now officially rounded up, but we started at about 82 degrees Fahrenheit in the ambient temperature, and it's only gone up from there. A 20-odd lap run to the end, assuming we go green. Tires will be in pain at the end. Robert Malechka, who has this tendency of being able to type under caution or green flag conditions, to be fair, letting me know that his right front tire was down to 17% with 43 laps on them. Going to be a fun one to close out the RaceSpot US 500 in the main split. These drivers have about 21 laps to go, about 30 laps in split number 2. But Jason Brophy leads at the front of the field, back underway here at Michigan for the RaceSpot US 500. 21 laps to sort it all out, and once again, not the cleanest of restarts through the field. Just a couple of side-by-side moments outside of the top 5. Single file though at the front, Joey.
Of lapped cars kind of in the way, but look in the background for that bright white car of Mitch Welker, for that black and red and white car of Brandon Traino to be absolutely sending it forward. They know they don't have that much time. They've got 20 laps to make the moves. Gotten on the back foot here. Look for them to be extremely aggressive, but Malechka's already taken the lead from Brophy. This is going to switch back every single lap. There's no hanging back anymore.
Adam Blocker says, I'll take it now, thank you. 3 wide, and he'll take the lead for the time being. Still Brandon Traino trying to work his way forward. He's past Tanner Watkins, and they are squabbling a little bit. Half a second, the gap between 10th and 11th positions. Brandon Traino in the leading group. Mitch Welker trying to make sure they're continuing to latch themselves onto the draft at the front and working their way forward. Casey Kerwin down low on Henry Bennett, but once again, Blocker down to the inside and leading at the line. 3 wide though, it's Malechka, this time down low.
Still running the Jacob Oster line, but he's getting beaten to it by Jason Brophy. It's not working out for him in the dirty air of Brophy. Jacob loves to run that high line. I've experienced it personally in many races I've done with him. I always want to run up there, but no, he takes it as well. But now that Jason Brophy is there, he knows it is the dying laps of the race. He needs to change his style, and Oster does get by Brophy. He's going to peek to the inside of Kerwin now. I don't know if he's going to get to the outside of Blocker, because Blocker's going to send it 3 wide for the lead again.
It was smart what Henry Bennett and Robert Malechka did on the back straightaway. Malechka led and made sure that Bennett had the draft to be able to slingshot his way to the front, because if Powerslide Motorsports can keep 3 cars inside of the top 4, they're in a great position to control this race. You can see how Blocker boxes out Oster momentarily and now feeds him the dirty air. It gives the opportunity, though, for Brandon Traino to find his way back to the front of the field. The king of the bricks inside of the top 5.
Jacob kind of boxed in there on the top. He's got his line, though. He's finally got his preferred line on the top. He's able to run above Blocker, but it's just not quite working for Jacob Oster. Brandon Traino on the bottom doing far better. He's going to go below the white line and get to the inside of Malechka.
Aggressive, and he tries to fade up the track. Contact with Malechka, who just about holds on, but he's going to lose the momentum. He'll pinch down Alexis Newsom as well, and now has to rise up the track and give some room to the number 63 Team i5G machine. The elbows are coming out. It's only going to get more physical from here, and Malechka will go down to the inside and force Traino up the track.
And Newsom's going to be having flashbacks right now. Remember what happened earlier on in the race when she made contact with Adam Blocker? That gave her damage. That made her fall all the way to the back of the field. Suddenly she's got to fight with Blocker again, but she was saved by that galaxy brain move on the pit entry to bail when the caution came out, and she's now 3 wide for the lead.
I have no idea who comes out on top here. 4 wide at the line with 15 laps to go. It's Newsom down low, Malechka up one groove, Treno up another groove, and then Blocker all the way up top. You can fit 5 cars here momentarily. We proved that on RaceSpotTV with our Monday night IndyCar coverage. But you don't want to be doing it with 15 laps still to go. They've been 4 wide for 3/4 of a lap so far.
Saying you can fit 5 cars wide here is kind of like saying you can go your whole life without drinking water. Eventually it'll kill you, but you can do it.
And Casey Kerwin down to the apron. He's got to fade up the track, and he's got to be careful. He'll have more contact with Newsom. Once again, Newsom has to give up a lot of ground and a lot of momentum. Somehow avoids running into her teammate, I do believe. Whoa, 14 laps to go, and they're all fighting like it's the final lap of the race.
And Jacob Oster came out really bad from that as well. He was already running the wall, and then he had to go up even higher into the wall to avoid everything that was happening ahead of him. And he's fallen out of the top 20 now. He's right behind Nicholas Sudik. So that's 2 more drivers kind of erased from contention here. Here comes Malechka and Treno again. They got so close before, but Malechka is going to be clear coming onto the back straight.
And somehow Newsom is still up there in the mix as well. Having now to find a way past Robert Malechka, but that could have been a whole lot worse. We were talking about Jason Brophy a handful of moments ago on the restart. He's back in 9th and struggling to find his way forward. There's the charge from Casey Kerwin in the XZ Gaming Machine, but you can see runs out of room, nowhere to go. 4 wide into turn 1 once more.
Eventually, you're going to realize you want to be the driver on the bottom. That tends to be the driver who wins coming to the line, but the outside has so much momentum that even if Robert Malechka does have the bottom, he's not able to hold it. Treno had such a run to the outside. He's able to clear Malechka. He's going to steal the bottom now. Malechka's going to fight back through the middle of the corner. But that outside momentum is great, and Newsom has to pit.
Newsom loses a big slide off of turn 4, will dive down below the apron and will bring out the caution and slow us down. I think it was just, again, a case of not being on top of the tools. iRacing caution system maybe could have been a little bit more lenient to us, but at the very least, it will mean the tires will be a little bit more alive come the run to the checkered flag. Just look at the initial save once more. But it was that slide back up onto the apron. I think there is where the caution would have triggered. Unfortunately, it was just maybe half a second too late for Alexis Newsom, or too early for Alexis Newsom in terms of timing there. Give a thank you to Gary Godso, to Michael O'Brien, donating as part of our fundraiser for the Open Medicine Foundation. But we're shaping up for a shootout with, I think, 8 laps to go. We're not at that point where the next flag would end the race, Joey. But drivers will very much be thinking about what would happen in a 1-lap shootout. Let's check in with our second split momentarily, though. 22 laps to go for these drivers as they continue to ride here at Michigan.
It looks like while we were tuned into the top split, we lost Matt Wagner, we lost Michael Hurley, so 2 of the top drivers in contention for this win gone. I did not see what happened to them. I'll try and research what happened to both of them, but suddenly Mark Murphy and Chris Fowler find themselves in that top position, and Jacob Reed in that bright magenta entry. He has the chance to be the spoiler here. Haven't talked about him much. He's been riding in the lower spots in the top 10. Suddenly he's found himself with a shot at the win. Only 2 cars ahead of him.
They'll come to 20 to go in this pack as we jump on board with Jacob Reed in that number 66. It's Murphy that will tuck down low, work his way through into turn number 1. As it runs right now, they're separated quite a bit. Top 5, you'd say, still in major contention, and the question will be if Hugo Gallas and Marcel Fassbender can work together and bridge the gap that they've got in front of them. With these drivers only about halfway through the fuel run, it's only going to get worse from here. Back over in main split, by the way, did note that it wasn't just Alexis Newsom that had her issues. Unfortunately for Tanner Watkins, got collected in the aftermath with Nick Sudik as they both tried to work their way on through. And so as a result, I think Tanner Watkins, our most recent retiree from the main split. We'll see if Nick Sudik has significant damage on his machine. Joey, you have a bit of an update on where Matt Wagner had his troubles.
Yeah, I did just see a screenshot of Mike Hurley about 20 feet in the air and Matt Wagner underneath him. I think they both did come together a little bit earlier. Two of the strongest cars in the race, two of the longtime leaders taken out in an incident with each other. That's what opened up the doors for the likes of Jacob Reed to take on the lead here. Nobody is absent from the Michigan troubles. Nobody can stay away. There's always something that's waiting to bite you. And Hurley and Wagner, they're done.
33 cars started in the second split. We're down to, I think, just under 20 out there and running. Still plenty of opportunities for some good finishes, for some strong drivers through the field. Mark Murphy, a champion in the Indy Fix Series. On a handful of occasions. Chris Fowler, someone that always seems to have more bad luck than good luck in Lionheart competition. Side by side, of course, as they work, but at least for the time being, it does seem as though, for the most part, it's going to be between your top two. Lights are off on the pace car in your main split. It means that we have 7 laps to go on this restart. Any lapped cars should have been shuffled to the back if the automated race control did what IndyCar would traditionally do, Joey. And I think based on what we've seen so far on this final shootout, let's get ready for some more 4 wide.
And very interestingly, about half the drivers on the lead lap brought it down pit lane under that caution. Connor Harrington, Chris Willite, Branch, Burrell, Marquez, Welker, and Graybill all on the lead lap. They came down for fresh tires. They think it's worth it with 8 laps to go to have that fresh rubber on. I think I kind of agree with them. The race leader, Brandon Treno's been on his tires for 18 laps. The likes of Chris Stover have been on them as long as 19 laps. You're going to have a lot of work on those fresh tires, but Connor Harrington only has 11 cars to pass.
Here's a look on board with the Worm Man, Jacob Oster. I tried to nickname him the Rocket Man, but he said the Rocket Man was really the worms that he was doing an experiment for. Those worms went up to the International Space Station, and Jacob Oster and his team at the Arkansas State University, I think it was, designing and conducting that experiment. Exciting times for Jacob in that Team i5G camp as well. 7 laps to go, though, here for the RaceSpot US 500. It's Brandon Treno from Malechka and Bennett. Who will come out? We've seen plenty of 4 wide so far, but it comes down to these next 7 laps. This a very hooked up restart at the very front of the field. It's not going to take long before they're all on top of one another once again in the pack.
And watch that blue and black car of Connor Harrington in the 12th spot. Look for him to be very, very aggressive on the freshest rubber of anybody here. They're already snaking down the back straight. Casey Kerwin and Malechka almost get into each other with the blocks. But look at Harrington already high, and I think Carey and Stouffer came together. They've managed to save it, though.
Former teammates. How aggressive was the contact between the two of them? Does look as though they've gathered it up without losing too much momentum. 3 wide with Kerwin up high, Malechka down low, and Treno in the middle. Sorts it out as you might expect with Malechka in front of Kerwin and Treno, but Henry Bennett in his British Racing Green machine looking to build up his momentum as well. Adam Blocker with a whole heap of steam. He'll look to the inside of turn number 1, and as the caution comes out, Connor Harrington goes up and over. Collected, I think, with one of the intense racing machines. Chris Stouffer, I think, was the one involved. Not at the point of no return. We are going to still have a shootout to the end, but they don't get much bigger than this.
Harrington just drives into the back of Stouffer there. He was getting very aggressive on those fresh tires, understandably, but that wasn't an act of aggression. That was just completely misjudging it. Driving up into Stouffer there and turning him. Very, very lucky that nobody else was really involved there. I think one other driver ended up clipping the end of that, maybe Rashad Craig, but we were very lucky that wasn't much, much bigger.
Yeah, that was almost 747 status there for
it was almost as high as
Harrington.
Jacob Oster's worms.
Not quite as high. We've gotten to that point before. If you go over to the Team i5G Twitter channels, you'll find some examples of what they've done at Indianapolis. Let's take a look here. Connor Harrington does come over to the right, albeit slightly. Not sure if there was that tad bit of air between the two of them, but don't think you can really say Chris Stouffer did much, if anything, wrong. See if the lights go off on the pace car this time by to leave us with a 3-lap shootout. or if it's down to a 2-lap shootout. Regardless, the next flag will end the race, whether it's the checkered or whether it's another caution.
This isn't what those drivers on fresh tires wanted. With Willite, Branch, Welker, they wanted a nice, decently long run. 8 laps was probably a little bit too short for them, but it was a decent amount of time for them to move their way through the field, for them to make those moves. Now, looks like we're going to restart with 2 laps to go because the lights aren't out on the pace car. You only get 4 miles to make 10 moves if you're Chris Willite. It's not impossible. Crazier things have happened, but those fresher tires aren't going to have all the time in the world to actually do all the work they need to do.
No, absolutely not. Again, just a reminder as well, track conditions are still blistering 133 degrees Fahrenheit. Even for those at the front who have had the stop and start nature of the race, they very much will be at a disadvantage. The question will be how significant of a disadvantage is it going to be? Again, look at those team affiliations on that left-hand side. How can the Power Slide trio work together? Can Oster and Newsom work their way forward to link up with Treno? And what can Casey Kerwin do all by himself as he runs up in that second position? Will be a 2-lap shootout. 8 corners, effectively, to figure it out. Not many opportunities to make the wrong choices, and I'd say choices here, Joey, and I'm talking about which line you want to pick, because the line that you pick going into turn 3 on the restart is going to be crucial to building to that final lap.
It's pressure cooker stuff here. Treno, you know, is probably going to block as hard as he possibly can down to the bottom, but Casey Kerwin finds himself right behind him. Kerwin has not been afraid to get aggressive. We've seen him on the apron before. Adam Blocker has been sending some of the most aggressive moves of anybody, and Robert Malechka behind as well. The Michigan master, if you let him get the bottom and the lead of the race, it's going to be very, very hard to beat him. You basically put together 4 unstoppable forces, and somehow one of them is going to be more unstoppable than the other. That's the breaking of physics that we always seem to do here.
Yeah, we do always seem to find ways to defy the laws of physics. I tell you what, I think we have time to quickly drag in Brandon Treno and disturb him at the very front of the field. Brandon, what's going through your mind with 2 laps to go?
We're just discussing how to kind of play this out. We're not really sure what to do here. It's really hard to stay in first off of 4 and then win to the line. So we'll see. We'll shoot for the best, but it's been a fun race, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Thanks for letting us in behind the cockpit once again, Brandon Treno, one of our 2 in-race reporters, and I think that's the only thing that you can really think about at this point, Joey, is that there's a lot of unknown and there's no certainty.
It's just going to be kind of a frenzy here for 4 more miles in this IndyCar on RaceSpot TV. No thoughts, just drives.
Pace car off for the final time. The next flag ends the race for this RaceSpot US 500. 2 more laps to go as the King of the Bricks picks up the throttle and starts the staking once again. It's not long for these drivers to figure it all out, and Brandon Treno has built up a nice buffer, but what it will mean is Casey Kerwin will get a potential slingshot into turn 3 if he can avoid the car stepping out on him. Very, very loose as the race restarts. Brandon Treno trying to go back and forth and lead at the line.
That was a critical moment for Kerwin. He was doing a great thing there. He was almost going for a road course style switchback, but he got that little bobble that stunted his momentum. He's going to get one more chance. He's going to have the run on Treno here. Here's the white flag.
The final lap of this RaceSpot US 500. It's Casey Kerwin the long way around on the King of the Bricks. Malechka, Blocker, Bennett, Oster, they look to be out of it. It comes down to the final 2 corners with Treno in front and looking down low, Joey.
When do you go for the move? Do you go for it now or do you wait until the line? Casey Kerwin says, I'm going for it now. He's going to squeeze Brandon Treno down. It's going to be a drag race to the line.
Get your cameras out, but it may not be that close. The King of the Bricks will come to the line to win the final ride for the Dallara IR18s here on iRacing. Brandon Treno takes the honors in the RaceSpot US 500 as we say goodbye to 13 years of community and of history here within the iRacing IndyCar community. What a way to send it off as well. with two fantastic splits of competition. Brandon Traino takes the win in the top split, and we'll talk to him in a few moments' time. But Joey, what a way to sign things off.
It's an absolutely incredible finish. Kerwin, he's probably going to be ruining his move. He's probably going to be saying, lamentable, why did I go so early? But there's only so much you can think about. It's tough to beat Brandon Traino. Maybe there's no harm in finishing second.
He'll burn it down in victory lane for one final time in 2022. Congratulations go to the Apex Racing team once again. Let's head on over though to split number 2 because they are winding down as well, and let's give them their shine. Mark Murphy, Chris Fowler, Jacob Reed, 1, 2, and 3 coming to 4 laps to go. You can see behind them Cesar Cabral, Luke Daniels, and Hugo Gallus looking to try and get in contention as well, but it's 3 wide and 3 drivers in the hot seat.
Bright magenta Jacob Reed once more making himself even more visible by putting it up on that high line. He's running the Jacob Oster line. It's working for him. These guys are able to run 3 wide, but now Cesar Cabral behind. He's trying to find a door to get through. He's trying to send it 4 wide. He's trying to find somewhere to place that car, and he can't do it. They're doing a great job of blocking up front.
Which way is it going to swing? Almost contact between Fowler and Murphy, and Cabral almost shoots the middle to try and make it 4 wide, but it's a little bit early for that, and he now slides up the track with a fistful of dirty air in front of him. They're 3 wide off of the corner, and the more they fight, the more it's bringing in Gallus and Daniels as well. Murphy jinks down low, trying to block, but the caution's gonna fly surely. Cesar Cabral gets spun around, and is that the end of the second split for the RaceSpot US 500?
I think it will be. They're going to take 2 laps to go here, and that is going to be it. Mark Murphy's going to win this race, but let's see what happened to Cesar Cabral. Just a lot of jittering down the back straight. Not leaving each other enough room. Needed to be kind of more comfortable. Just driving in a straight line there, but everybody was jittering around, dancing around. They all met in the middle. Hugo Galaz and Cesar Cabral were the big losers.
Ping pong played there, and these drivers will now putter around for a lap and a half to finish under caution. So while they do that, I think maybe we should go and grab a look at our results out of the main split. Of course, Brandon Traino, our victor, after 156 laps, about 500 kilometers of racing. And here's a look at those race results. 0.5 of a second the margin to Casey Kerwin, but Henry Bennett came with a fistful of momentum, head full of momentum, just unable to time it right. He'll finish on the final step of the podium, with Jacob Oster and Alexis Newsom for Team i5G 4th and 5th. Malechka, Brophy, Wilhite, Branch, and carry the rest of the top 10, with Jason Brophy gaining 31 positions to be the hardest charger of the day. Mitch Welker will be down in 11th, while Adam Blocker had some struggles, down in 12th come the checkered flag. Andrew Marquez, Kevin Burrell, 13th and 14th, with Matt Pavelski, Chris Stouffer, and David Grable, the final cars on the lead lap. Chad Frankenfield, Brendan Lichtenberg, and Adam Crane, the rest of the top 20. 21st is Craig Forsyth, with Connor Harrington and Rashad Craig, 21st and 22nd and 23rd. Many retirees through the course of this one. Some solo car incidents, some multi-car incidents. Tanner Watkins and Nick Sudik, 24th and 25th, came together after Alexis Newsom had her moment off of turn 4, while Matt Holliber, Frank Levick, Phil Kraus, AJ Burden, Shane Coogan complete the rest of your top 30. David Porcelli in 31st, with Riley Thompson, AJ Musselman, Andrew Kinsella, Evan Adams, Josh Tucker, Jeff Trake, Chad Simpson, Jesper Orman, Seb Alexander, and then finally, the final of our non-finishers, Jose Soria, and then Doug South through the 42 that took to the green flag. Let's head down then to Victory Lane, where Brandon Traino served as our in-race reporter and now chats to us on top at the end of 2022. A crazy race throughout, Brandon, plenty of 3 and 4 wide. But what are you feeling now as we say goodbye, unfortunately, to this IndyCar?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We had any race in this car, you know, is always something to enjoy and always nice to be a part of. So, yeah, it was a hell of a finish. Yeah, I don't really know what to say because I need to watch what I say, but I have some not so nice words. But yeah, I I expect the results to change, and I'll leave it at that. So.
In terms then of what you're going to be doing next year, Brandon, you and I had already talked a couple of times earlier this year about maybe doing some more special events with the rest of the Apex Racing team. I'm sure you're now looking forward with Daytona, the first event scheduled on your calendar.
Yeah, we're trying to find a slot for me in one of the Academy cars, but with my schedule, I don't have the time to do the I-rating grind. So we'll probably just end up with the I5G guys like usual and just have some fun.
Well, Brandon, it's been a fun ride commentating on you. Hopefully we get to do that a little bit more next year. But a great way to send things off. Thanks for being a part of the RaceSpot US 500.
Yeah, thanks, Arjun. Appreciate it.
Brandon Traino joining us from what he thinks is a temporary victory. We'll see exactly how things shake up after that. Let's see if we can chat with a handful more drivers who are standing by. I think we have the Worm Man, Jacob Oster, finished 4th in this one. Jacob, talk to us about your race.
Very, very, very eventful is one way to put that race. Very long, and I screwed up quite a bit, but I'm happy to finally get to 4th at least.
You broke onto the scene in 2021, finding speed in a setup that many thought didn't have the speed to make it into the top split of the iRacing Indy 500. Joined up with Team I5G, and what a ride it's been since then, right?
No, it's definitely been a ride, that's for sure. You know, I haven't won as much as I wanted to, but I've won a couple races, and I feel like I've performed really, really well over the course of all these big events, and I'm proud of that.
So what are you going to be doing next year as you move forward, potentially without the IndyCar?
Well, I'm probably still going to be running IndyCar. You know, I still got to beat your world record time on Nords. I can't let that stand. I'm so close. I don't know what else. Probably just keep running open and fixed whenever I can, and just keep going hard and just learn more on the car, because you never know what could happen. We could be doing this again.
Well, hopefully we can do it again and do it soon. Thanks for joining us for the RaceSpot US 500, Jacob, and thanks for being a great part of our community.
Thanks for everything you do too, Arjuna.
Jacob Oster standing by in 4th, but now we go to Henry Bennett, who finished 3rd provisionally. We'll see how things shake up. Henry, I haven't seen too much of you through the course of 2022, taking a slight step back to, let's be real, reset your sleep schedule in some ways, but we saw you for the Open Wheels 500. Glad to have you back here today. What's it been like with this Lara IR18 at the end of 2022?
I was just happy to keep the thing in a straight line. And, that was my biggest problem. Even if I was on the track alone, who knows how long it would have been till I crashed with my lack of skill currently.
Well, you had plenty of momentum coming out of turn number 4. We saw you peek out into the shot just at the very last moment. Did you think you had a chance of timing that one up?
Possibly. It was a big gap. Bad restart by me, but then that did mean I could build up momentum over the next lap and a half. Possibly if I didn't have to lift, if I stayed in clean air for a tiny bit longer in turn 3 and 4, I may have had momentum. But yeah, the bottom line was usually where the win is going to come from in that situation, so it would have been tough.
For you, Henry, you're someone that's competed across of several generations of this IndyCar and iRacing. What are your fondest memories looking back on all of those races?
Honestly, hard to pick any. Yeah, it's really tough. But yeah, I think the best memories come from the Open Series, really. I mean, there's we've had a lot of big races, big televised races, but in the Open Series over the years, it's where some of the best competition is, and the friendliest competition too, which is what I'd probably highlight. The friendliness within the community.
Henry, I can say I got into the IndyCar thanks to you. I'm sure there's many more that can say that as well, thanks to your work at the Pure Driving School. So thanks for all you've done for the community, and hopefully we see you more on RaceSpot in the next year.
Thanks, Arjuna. Love you.
Henry Bennett, provisionally 3rd, potentially 1st, based on the comments from the one and only Brandon Traino. We're going to step away from interviews for a moment. We're going to grab a look at split number 2 results, and hopefully we can grab a couple more words with some more drivers in a few moments' time. Here's a look at how it finished up for these, though, at the end of their 156 laps. Of course, finishing under caution, but Mark Murphy finishes on top in front of Chris Fowler and Jacob Reed, Luke Daniels, Jason Wallet, the rest of the top 5. Brandon Hawking ran in the FTF Rectangle 500, finishes 6th here in the RaceSpot US 500, with Indy Cassie, Ollie McGowan, Brian Greenlee, and then Chris Scala, the rest of the top 10. not that many more finishers in this split of competition, with Jason Lottridge in front of Marcel Fassbender, and then Hugo Gallas and Cesar Cabral, the two that tangled to bring out the caution. Andrew Adair Saunders for the Iconic Motorsports team in 15th, with Matt Wagner, Michael Hurley tangling to bring two contenders out of the race, with Paolo Vinicius, Bill Coley, and then Christopher Hetzel, the rest of your top 20. We'll scroll through the rest of your results and show you how they all cycled on out. But Joey, I mean, stop and start at times this RaceSpot US 500, but we saw plenty of exciting racing. We saw plenty of intriguing strategy ideas, exactly what we've come to know and love from this series, from this community.
It's exactly what we wanted to see tonight. Just basically everything you want from an IndyCar race. We had fuel strategy. We had green flag pit stops. We had some sprints. We had a sprint to the finish with some of the best drivers in this community battling each other to the end. A little bit of drama, but you'll get that everywhere. And that's just the last piece of the puzzle that we all needed. It's a perfect way, unfortunately, to end this IndyCar story for now. Hopefully, this is just a hiatus. Hopefully, it's not an end. But for now, we can be happy with what we did tonight.
And before we say goodbye, I think this is something that you and I kind of wanted to touch on and just share what this car, what this community has meant to us. And Joey, I'll let you go first.
Well, it's difficult to know really where to start. I guess my lasting IndyCar memory from this car on iRacing, Jacob Oster. I raced against him in an IndyCar league that no longer exists, but we had a great time. I made some videos for them. All that was fun. I lost to Jacob Oster by 0.000 seconds. It was a photo finish at Pocono. I didn't even lose. It was a tie. iRacing said I lost, though. And still, that's a lasting memory because I've been given the chance to race an IndyCar at my home track at Pocono. Controversial home track. Some people don't like it. Some people love it. I do love it because of those memories of going to IndyCar races there in real life, meeting IndyCar drivers, meeting Robin Miller, meeting anybody there, and associating them with iRacing. It's just a combination of things, combining the real world and the virtual world that you can do nowhere else. And I do just want to close on a quote from who else but Robin Miller, you know, old man, IndyCar reporter. He's the first person to admit that from Racer. But he even acknowledged the benefit that iRacing has in bringing young people, the people who are very, very difficult to attract to motorsports nowadays, especially if they're not fans in the first place. Young people get into motorsports. They get into IndyCar racing specifically because of the connections they can make online, because of the connections they can make on iRacing, because of the cars they can literally drive, and they have formed a quantifiable community in these people. All those people who signed that letter, it's a very real thing. And hopefully IndyCar has been listening. We've been hearing that they know what's up. They've been hearing everything that's been going on. Hopefully saner heads prevail. Hopefully we have good things to talk about in 2023, and this isn't the last time we get to broadcast something like this.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I think a lot of people within the community know this, but I wouldn't be in this commentary booth without the IndyCar. I got into the IndyCar in 2019, never having watched an Indy 500 or an IndyCar race before. It's because of this community that I started watching IndyCar. It's why I went to the Indy 500 earlier this year. And it's why I've had all these fantastic opportunities to work with IMSA, SRO, the Digital Nürburgring guys, Porsche, BMW, and more things for next year that I can't really talk about. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone in the community, because without you guys, I would not be where I am, and RaceSpot would not be where we are. Our first broadcast here at RaceSpot was an IndyCar race. It's what we live, it's what we breathe. And I know some people would have wanted to see Will Vincent here. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it, but he is with us in spirit. And so is everybody that has been a part of our team. Aaron Likens, constant voice of the iRacing Indy 500, now the flagman for the NTT IndyCar Series. Our ties go well and deep into the IndyCar paddock, and our community is going to continue to live on, whatever form that is. 13 years of history is not going to be thrown away with one fell swoop of a pen. Who knows when we're going to be live with IndyCars next? I don't know. I hope it's soon. But we'll be there, and we'll be there soon. For now, we wish you and everyone a happy new year. We hope 2023 is great. We'll see you next time on RaceSpot TV. As they're still four wide on the run down in the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan? Kraus and Harrington side by side, but it's Malechka and Treno 1 and 2 and building their momentum to the line. Using the apron is Robert Malechka, but winning this race, I think, is Brandon Treno by 1/1000th of a second. They wreck across the line, but it does not matter.
Favorite memory? The obvious answer would be probably, like racing against like Tony Kanaan, Kyle Busch, countless of my heroes growing up.
We all just randomly decided to run, like I think it was like a Tuesday night or something like that, and I somehow pulled out the win. I just remember how much my hands were shaking after that, and I don't really think any other car on the sim provides that level of thrill, and I'm gonna miss the heck out of it.
The 2021 Long Beach Grand Prix from ISOWC, finishing second, getting driver of the day. Such an unexpected result for such a big event.
First time I ever ran the car in 2018. My friend and teammate Zach Buchanan convinced me to buy it for Fuel Racing League, and I won the first race I ever ran. It was Sebring Modified, and through that I discovered the Real Series too, so it's been amazing.
2021, when I went from the only multi-time winner and back-to-back winner to winning the top split Indy 500 for the third time in a row.
Making the top split of the biggest race in Indiana for the first time in 2021. This gave me the confidence that I could really compete with the best of the best in this car.
My best iRacing week ever. Won 12 Indy Open races in 1 week, as well as 3 IIS races out of 4 that I entered.
It's not what I've been able to do in the car, but what I've been able to do out of the car. Being able to work with Arjuna for the Open Wheel 500. There are all these people around you in the IndyCar Discord, especially that they care, and they are awesome people. I'm super grateful that I've been able to meet a lot of these people.
First, the friends I made along the way. Second, all the iRacing Indy 500s we won together as a team. And lastly, going to the Indianapolis 500 with those friends. I'll never forget it. Also, what I'll never forget, Paul Tracy won the 2002 Indy 500.
I mean, honestly though, it's probably the friends we made along the way here.
But like most people have probably said, the friendships and memories that I've made with those friends over the years has been the most important and favorite memory of my time on iRacing.
It's more than a video game. That's what it is. And I'm really sad.